Chapter 2491. He likes this book very much, and he likes the author of this book very much. Luo Qing-chun said, having a common topic is definitely a qualitative leap for the script. Luo Qing-chun, you. Gong Yubai snorted and said, don't tell me you deliberately got on the same flight as me, with a premeditated plan. It was such a good movie, such a good opportunity. For other female stars, it might be an opportunity that they would never have in their lifetime, but this girl said she didn't want it. Could it be that it really had something to do with Yi Shirleyang being the male lead? What premeditated plan? Luo Qing-chun looked at Gong Yubai with an innocent expression and said, I wanted to go to the South Pole to see penguins, okay? Who followed you on the plane? So you really like this novel, so you gave up such a good foreign blockbuster and chose to act in it. Gong Yubai crossed his arms and looked at Luo Qing-chun with a scrutinizing gaze. He narrowed his eyes slightly, as if he was looking at a young wife who had made a mistake. Of course, Origami Dada is my favorite author. There is no other author. Luo Qing-chun pursed her lips, a faint light flashing in her eyes as she looked at Gong Yubai, and said, God, you doesn't want me to act in this youth film. Could it be don't think too much? Before Luo Qing-chun's voice fell, Gong Yubai directly interrupted her and said, what kind of person Gong Yubai is not something a little girl like you can understand. Moreover what? You look different from the Luo Qing-chun in my dream. I saw her appearance. He paused for a moment and said, she said goodbye to me. There were many people in this world who were persistent, but only he, Gong Yubai, was persistent in his dream. Ha ha! Luo Qing-chun laughed dryly 3 times. There was a slight anger in her tone that was difficult to detect. She looked at him and said, I naturally don't know what kind of person God you is, but you are not RMB. Not everyone is interested in you, okay? If Gong Yubai's words hadn't angered her, she wouldn't have said such hurtful words. Sure enough, in the next second, Gong Yubai's expression changed slightly, and even his tone became somewhat deep. Well, that's good. He raised his cold eyes and looked at her. Pack your things. We'll leave at 12. 12 o'clock. Luo Qing-chun was stunned. But today's flight to China is only at 10 o'clock in the morning. Did you remember wrongly? Fortunately, I booked the plane ticket. Hurry up and wash up. I'll treat you to the plane. If the two of us appear in economy class at the same time, guess what tomorrow's headlines will say? Gong Yubai curled his lips into a smile. You don't mind, but I do. Looks like you're prepared. Luo Qing-chun snorted and said, also, I don't mind. That's called magnanimity. I can't take advantage of your God-used fame. I don't mind you taking advantage of my fame. Gong Yubai thought for a moment. His pair of beautiful eyes carried a faint light as he looked at her and said, it's just that the explosive news in the future won't be so pleasantly surprised. After a night of thinking, Gong Yubai came up with Plan B in addition to Plan A. But if it was Plan B, there were some things that needed to be prepared in advance. Chapter 2492. Then it seems you're very suitable for the role of the evil supporting female lead. Gong Yubai looked at her with narrowed eyes, so violent. That's called being on guard against the future and making you timid. There's nothing in this world that I, Gong Yubai, am timid. He narrowed his eyes filled with absolute confidence. TCH. Arrogant. Luo Qing-chun pursed her lips and said, you'll start to worry when God-used fame isn't as good as before. Gong Yubai snorted and raised his starry eyes. I'm not someone from the entertainment circle. Why should I care about fame? To be honest, he admired Luo Qing-chun's unconvinced expression. However, he knew that admiring someone too much could lead to immeasurable consequences. He had to calm down. You're not acting anymore? You're so young. There shouldn't be any problems, right? Luo Qing-chun looked him up and down and finally fixed her gaze on a certain part of his lower body. She touched her ear with her right hand and muttered, no wonder you didn't film any kissing or bed scenes, so it's because the next second, Gong Yubai's slender fingers flicked her forehead. He stood in front of her and looked at her with a serious expression. Are there any problems? Do you want to test it or test it? In that instant, Luo Qing-chun felt her cheeks turn red. The air around them seemed to freeze at this moment. Gong Yubai's calm expression made her feel a little nervous. I suddenly remembered that I haven't packed my things yet, so I'll be leaving first. Luo Qingqian bit her lip and turned around with an embarrassed expression. She quickly left the crime scene. When she reached the door, she seemed to suddenly remember something. She turned around and asked Gong Yubai, "So how are we going to leave at 12 o'clock? Don't tell me you have a private jet." Gong Yubai faintly replied. "Is it strange?" Gong Yubai's deep eyes focused on her, like a hunter examining his prey. He was especially serious. No, no, no. Luo Qingchen hurriedly shook her hand and said, "Godyu is the nation's Prince Charming. Okay. Uh-huh. I'm afraid that in Miss Luo's mind, there's a problem with me, the so-called national Prince Charming." His slightly sarcastic tone had a hint of a smile, which was especially charming. Nonsense. Luo Qingxian pursed her lips and didn't forget to give him a thumbs up. "You're the best national male god." When Gong Yubai heard this, he couldn't help but smile. He looked at her and said, "Hypocrite." At noon, they boarded Gong Yubai's private jet after lunch. It was not like a small helicopter, but a small passenger plane. It was the first time that Luo Qingchen had chartered a private plane. This feeling was really amazing. Gong Yubai took a sip of his coffee and said to Luo Qingchen, "I've already contacted Director Li via email. When do you have time? Let's meet up." So fast. Luo Qingchen's eyebrows slightly moved as she said, "I heard that in the entire entertainment circle, Director Li Yuan is the most unapproachable person. If you didn't mention it, it would have been fine, but now that you mention it, I'm a little flustered." Flustered about what? Gong Yubai narrowed his eyes and raised a pair of sword-like eyebrows as he said, "If he's not satisfied with you, then just replace him." Ah, Luo Qingchen was shocked. Her left elbow half leaned against the window as she looked at him and said, "Who the hell is this god you? You speak as if Director Li is your subordinate." Chapter 2493. Don't. Luo Qingchen immediately refused. She smiled and said, "I don't want to ride on your popularity. Do you think you won't be able to ride on my popularity after getting off the plane?" Gong Yubai narrowed his eyes slightly. He looked especially good against the light. Luo Qingchen blinked, then blinked again and said, "This is a private jet. They also know your itinerary. Are they that bad at keeping a secret?" Seeing Luo Qingchen's dissatisfied expression, Gong Yubai picked up the pen next to him and gently tapped her head. "Didn't you get my itinerary quite smoothly? That's sister me." Luo Qingchen immediately stopped and changed the topic. "When did I get your itinerary?" This person's skill at tricking words was quite strong. He could use different angles to cut in and get information out of her. Moreover, he could do it so naturally. You know very well in your heart. Gong Yubai's lips curled into a faint smile. He put down the armchair and closed his eyes. "Luo Qingchen, you can't be secretly in love with me, right?" His heart throbbed strangely, and ripples spread out layer by layer. He didn't know why he felt this way. He only knew that this feeling made his heart, which was as heavy as stagnant water, unable to calm down. "What?" Luo Qingchen heard this and sat up straight. She looked at him and said, "Gong Yubai, why do you have to call me by my full name? Narcissism is a disease. You have to dong." Before Luo Qingchen could finish her sentence, Gong Yubai flipped her over and pushed her down. The cool minty scent surrounded her in layers. She could feel her heart thumping and her breathing stopping in an instant. "I don't like people calling me by my full name." Gong Yubai's beautiful and deep eyes gazed deeply at her. His gaze seemed to be able to see the Milky Way in the starry sky. It was especially bright. However, Luo Qingchen only glanced at him for a moment before looking away. It wasn't because she didn't want to look. Instead, he was nervous. It's you who called me." Luo Qingchen bit her lips and said, I'm still not willing." At this moment, Gong Yubai's extremely good-looking face was only a few centimeters away from her. If he were to break on land, she might... Thinking of this, Luo Qingchen quickly shook her head. What was she thinking? "Host, your imagination is really running wild." "Oh my God. System, why did you have to appear at this time?" You suddenly spoke. I became even more nervous. Okay? There was a sudden notification, but it wasn't an increase in favorability. It really made people nervous and anxious. Oh, if you don't want to, then what do you want? Gong Yubai's long eyelashes trembled slightly. His appearance against the light was simply indescribably beautiful. I think, aren't we even now? No. Why not? You call my name, and I called yours. It's fair. Being fair doesn't mean being happy. When Luo Qingshan heard this, she looked at him angrily and said, "Then what do you want?" In the next second, the plane suddenly passed through the countercurrent layer, and the fuselage shook slightly. Gong Yubai hurriedly covered her hand with his. His brows knitted tightly, and he pulled her into his arms and said, "Be careful." His woolen coat smelled really good. His body scent was really good. It turned out that liking someone wasn't that difficult. Sometimes, it only took a simple moment for Cupid's arrow to appear with unerring accuracy. Chapter 2494. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 30%. Gong Yubai's assistant Peter saw this scene when he opened the door. It was like his feet were chained up as he stood there in a daze. Until Gong Yubai's cold voice slowly rang out, saying 2 words. "Get out." Peter's legs almost went soft. He no longer had his normal serious appearance as he rolled out of the VIP cabin. Luo Qingshan quickly stood up and covered half her face with her right hand. She looked out the window as her face turned red to her ears. It was so hot that it was boiling. Gong Yubai was looking at the computer the entire afternoon, and Luo Qingshan was looking at the clouds. The two of them didn't say a single word. Until dinner time. Dinner was eaten on the plane. Gong Yubai brought his personal chef and satisfied her taste buds. "Is Miss Luo Qingshan satisfied?" "Satisfied?" Luo Qingshan nodded and didn't forget to add, "Mr. Gong Yubai, you." Gong Yubai looked at her proud appearance and helplessly shook his head. "You're so naughty in the entertainment industry. You should have offended quite a few people." "Nonsense," Luo Qingshan replied while eating ice cream. "I didn't have any enemies before." Although the previous host was a bit proud, she was very friendly to the people she worked with. If it wasn't for Jin Yishuan and Gu Fanfan, she felt that the previous host's ending wouldn't be bad. It's a pity. It's a pity. You have one now?" Gong Yubai looked at her and said, "Gu Fanfan." Coo. This was her first time choking on ice cream because Gong Yubai said the words Gu Fanfan. "Look at how excited you are." Gong Yubai took a tissue and pressed it against her lips. He gently patted her back and said, "Xiao In's director isn't that good, so you don't need to care too much." "I don't care." Luo Qingshan gave a cold snort and said, "You should know that someone like her getting the role of Xia Qiqi didn't just rely on her own skills." "I know," Gong Yubai responded. His eyes gradually deepened as he looked at her and said, "Your fiancé helped." In the afternoon, while she was admiring the blue sky and white clouds, he, who was originally focused on his work, unconsciously opened the search engine. The 3 words Luo Qingshan were printed on it. He didn't expect that the information that came out was accompanied by another man. He seemed to have some impression of this man, but it wasn't deep. No, it was only a second ago that it wasn't deep, but after this second, the 3 words Jin Yishuan were firmly engraved in his mind and couldn't be erased. Especially those keywords, which gave him a headache. Hashtag Luo Qingshan Jin Yishuan's fiancé hashtag. Hashtag Luo Qingshan Jin Yishuan's confirmed role in youth hashtag. Hashtag relationship crisis. Youth female lead changes hashtag. After reading most of the news, he realized that he couldn't continue reading the international news. His mind was filled with scenes of keywords flashing by, just like a movie clip. Hey. Luo Qingshan turned around and sat cross-legged as she looked at him and said, "You can ridicule me in any way you want, but please don't have anything to do with Jin Yishuan, who wants to be associated with the name of a scumbag." "He scumbags you?" Gong Yubai looked at her agitated expression and didn't know whether to be serious or laugh. Chapter 2495. Is he worthy of me? Luo Qingshan proudly snorted and said, "I have good taste, okay? Putting this kind of man together with his name makes me feel ashamed." These past few days of being away from Starlight, away from the worldly disputes of the entertainment industry. She felt particularly happy. But at this time, Gong Yubai reminded her of the existence of Jin Yishuan in this world. What vexing topic. What vexing person. All right. He raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at the time. It's time to sleep. We'll arrive at 8 tomorrow morning. Luo Qingchen nodded and said, only good food and sleep can't be let down. Although it was on the plane, Luo Qingchen felt that she slept very well that night. In a daze, she felt someone help her lean her chair down a bit. The quilt was a bit thicker, and the light was a bit darker. In fact, she and Gong Yubai weren't very familiar. Even if they measured their relationship by favorability, it didn't even reach a third. But he felt that this legendary, cold and abstinent imperial god was different from what he imagined. Under that cold and handsome appearance, there seemed to be a gentle heart. The next morning at 8 o'clock, after breakfast, Luo Qingchen followed Gong Yubai off the plane. Although they took the VIP passage, they were still surrounded by a group of fans and reporters when they arrived at the East Gate. She had seen this scene before. It was like a sea of people was holding a concert. Gong Yubai's popularity wasn't just for show. He was probably the only person in the world who could use a disaster film to become popular. Imperial God, Peter called out to him and whispered, Miss Luo, do you want to get in the car with us? Luo Qingchen heard this sentence. She probably knew Gong Yubai's difficulties. Although she was also very popular, compared to Gong Yubai, the difference was like heaven and earth. The national male god definitely wasn't just for show. Gong Yubai frowned and his eyes flashed with a cold light. I'll take her with me in the future. Yes, yes, yes. Peter seemed to feel his anger and hurriedly bowed and nodded. Luo Qingchen thought for a moment, pushed up her sunglasses and said, I don't want to go with you, lest you shun say that I'm using his popularity. Besides, my agent will be here soon. You guys go first. Luo Qingchen, what are you doing, Gong Yubai? Luo Qingchen put her hands in the pockets of her orange coat and looked at him. You're addicted to calling me by my full name. Do you see that white glass door? Gong Yubai slowed down, and his cool voice slowly entered her ears. He looked at her out of the corner of his eye and said, there are at least 10,000 people outside right now. If I hold your hand and walk out of this door, guess what will be on the headlines tomorrow? Hiss! Everyone around them sucked in a breath of cold air. This included Luo Qingchen. Are you retaliating against me? Luo Qingchen cleared her throat and said, let's talk things over. You can't take revenge on me. At the same time, Luo Qingchen's mind was already filled with the scene of Gong Yubai's millions of fans writing posters for her. Hashtag after missing out on the role of the female lead in youth. She shamelessly hooked up with you. Shun hashtag my male god. Will never have a partner. Luo Qingchen. Get out of the entertainment industry. Hashtag Luo Qingchen chased after you shun and used a shameful trick. Hashtag thousands of fans are heartbroken. Yu Shun and the popular female lead are holding hands in public, ruining the social atmosphere. Hashtag. Chapter 2496. Then come with me. Gong Yubai's right hand gently touched her head. His eyes became gentle as he looked at her and said, your big sunglasses cover half of your face. No one can recognize you. He couldn't leave her alone at the airport, at least not now. Although he had never walked out of the airport with any female star before. It had nothing to do with taking advantage of popularity. It was just because he didn't want to. Luo Qingchen took a deep breath and looked at the assistant next to her. Do you have a mask? Yes. Lend me one. After putting on the mask, she tied her wavy hair into a ponytail. She followed behind Gong Yubai's assistant and walked out of the airport. Everyone said that walking out of the airport was something that must be done. It was also the first time she wrapped herself up tightly and walked out of the airport without showing a bit of her face. Along the way, wave after wave of shouts came, Imperial God, Imperial God, Imperial God. At this moment, Luo Qingchen suddenly felt that she was very lucky. So many people wanted to see Gong Yubai, but it was difficult, and she succeeded in flirting with him. 1/3. Get lost. Sometimes she really hated the system. Gong Yubai personally sent her home and left her all her contact information. Before leaving, he didn't forget to say a few words. What do you want to do at night? Rest, rest. Then give me a call before you rest. Why? In response to Luo Qingchen's question, Gong Yubai put his hands in his pockets and narrowed his eyes. It seems that I have to go to the entertainment weekly tomorrow to expose myself. You? Luo Qingchen shook her head and smiled helplessly. This is the first time I found out that Imperial God likes to let people take advantage of his popularity. I don't like it. He paused. But you're an exception. To be honest, she couldn't help but feel that sometimes it wasn't her flirting with Gong Yubai, but Gong Yubai flirting with her. After dinner, she gave Gong Yubai a call. Director Li Yuan, who had high standards for actors, didn't even see her before he agreed to let her play the female lead of You're More Stunning Than Time, Mu Chuxia. This news made her feel that Gong Yubai wasn't an ordinary person. If this was a game, he would definitely be a big boss. Early the next morning, Luo Qingchen got up on time and wore a Derek shirt. Lamb's limited edition white jacket went to Star Sky Group. Her manager, Sister Me, was already waiting for her at the door. She had also received a stack of scripts and today's entertainment newspaper. You came back so quickly from the South Pole. I thought you would stay for a few more days. Sister Me looked at her and said, These two things are both good things in my eyes. Luo Qingchen took the script and said, You're back to take on the role. Dedicated. Sister Me smiled and said, Take some time to look at these scripts in the next 2 days, and then we'll pick one. No need. I've already decided which movie I want to act in. Luo Qingchen picked up the entertainment newspaper and was suddenly stunned. What movie? Sister Me was slightly stunned. The photo in the newspaper can't really be you, right? Do you want me to answer your first question or your second one? Luo Qingchen sneered and sent Gong Yubai a WeChat message. Mr. Gong, please take a look at today's entertainment headlines, okay? Shocking news. National male god, Imperial God, and mysterious woman return on a private plane. After sending the WeChat message, Luo Qingchen went directly to Weibo. Her name was already third on the hot search list. Chapter 2497. Why don't these entertainment weekly reporters become detectives? Luo Qingchen's eyebrows moved slightly. Their deductive ability is really good. What deductive ability? Sister Me glanced at the newspaper and asked, I'm not even sure it's you. How can they say that? For people like them who are used to being detectives, it's easy to connect these things together. Luo Qingchen frowned slightly as she looked at the comments on Weibo. Fluffy cutie. TSK, TSK, TSK. When I saw the video of Qing Bao on the plane that day, I accidentally found out that Yushan was also on the same plane. So they really are colleagues. Durian Forget return. Excited, excited. Qing Bao and Yushan are both my favorite idols. Asterisk carrot, carrot asterisk, makeup blogger Axie. But if they are colleagues, LQC doesn't need to cover it up so tightly. You use wife? I agree with the person above. I always feel like it's a hype, taking advantage of our Yushin's popularity. As soon as this news came out, the entire Weibo instantly fell into a half-paralyzed state. Even refreshing the page would lag. The comments on the internet were endless. Some sent blessings, some hyped up the couple, and some said that she was taking advantage of the popularity. In short, whether it was good or bad, this double-sided nature only belonged to Luo Qingchen. Because even if such a big news broke out, no one said anything bad about Gong Yubai. 1. Sentence. All. No. Have. DD. Just as Luo Qingchen was immersed in reading Weibo, Gong Yubai replied to her WeChat. N. It's not bad. Gong Yubai. Luo Qingchen quickly typed a line of words on her phone, showing the anger in her heart. Do you mean that you're blind and don't do anything? Luo Qingchen. DD. This time, Gong Yubai replied very quickly. It was basically a 1-second reply. Do you want me to clarify or admit it? Gong Yubai. To be honest, when Luo Qingchen saw Gong Yubai's reply, she didn't know what to say. After deleting the message several times, she finally put the phone in her pocket and did not reply to him. Her manager, Sister Me, was chattering away at the side, but it all went in one ear and out the other, so she didn't hear a thing. It was not until the car stopped at the entrance of Starlight Group that she truly felt the charm of the National Prince Charming. Several reporters from major newspapers and periodicals were waiting at the entrance of Starry Sky, waiting for her arrival to obtain first-hand information. Sister Me looked at her anxiously and said, "This God you is definitely not someone to be trifled with. This time, he will definitely say that we are taking advantage of his popularity. This is really not easy to deal with. What are you worried about?" Luo Qingshan pursed her lips and said, "We'll cross that bridge when we get there." As soon as she finished speaking, she put on her exclusive big sunglasses and got out of the van. At this moment, a group of reporters swarmed over, deeply afraid that they would miss some earth-shattering news. "Miss Luo, I heard that you're going to Antarctica on the same flight as Yushan. Is that true?" "Miss Luo, was that you in the photo taken in the Entertainment Weekly yesterday?" "Miss Luo, what is your relationship with Yushan? Or are you like most people on the internet saying that you're here to take advantage of his popularity?" "Miss Luo, tell us about it." A group of comments filled her mind at the same time. She frowned slightly, didn't respond, and walked through the door of Starry Sky Group. Sister Me accompanied her the whole time and truly felt the charm of the national Prince Charming. Chapter 2498. After entering the company, the reporters were all stopped by the security guards outside. Sister Me was afraid that she would be worried, so she hurried forward and said, "Actually, in the past 2 years, any news related to God you will be magnified by the media. When I got in the car, I thought it wasn't you in the photo, so I thought it was a good thing. After all, it couldn't be a bad thing to be on the hot searches without spending money and have so much exposure without spending money. So it's not a good thing that it's me in the photo." Luo Qingshan snorted with a touch of helplessness in her eyes. The entertainment industry was sometimes so complicated. Exposure was a double-edged sword. Only by using it properly could the effect be maximized. On the other hand, if it wasn't used properly, the best-case scenario would be being frozen for a while, and the worst-case scenario would be leaving the entertainment industry. It can't be said that it's not a good thing. Sister Me thought for a bit and said, "So you and God you already know each other?" The next second, there was a ding sound and the elevator door opened. Standing inside were Jin Yishuan, Gu Fanfan, and Gu Fanfan's agent, Yi Su. When Luo Qingshan was looking through the hot searches in the car, she accidentally saw the opening ceremony of Youth is a Simple Thing. It was around the 30s. According to the popularity of the novel and Jin Yishuan's traffic, it was impossible for it to only be on the hot searches. The biggest problem was still Gu Fanfan. In another parallel universe, due to the love of the original owner for Jin Yishuan, the two of them often followed her on the hot searches. The vicious rich girl vs. the innocent Cinderella, Gu Fanfan's popularity and image naturally increased. The more people paid attention to their love triangle, the more beneficial it would be for the popularity of youth. The original owner stupidly became the catalyst for their love and career, but in the end, she ended up in such a miserable state. "Isn't this Sister Me?" Yisu spoke first with a different emotion in her eyes. She smiled and said, "There are so many reporters at the door. You're riding on this wave of popularity well." In the company, whether it was between celebrities or agents, there was always competition, both open and covert. Sister Me and Yi Su no longer fought in secret. As soon as they entered the company, their relationship was open competition. It was a pity that Sister Me wasn't doing as well as Yi Su. No matter what newcomer she brought along, they couldn't surpass Yi Su. Of course, Luo Qingshan was an exception, because she had chosen Sister Me, not the other way around. The reason why the relationship between Sister Me and Yi Su was so open was because they were classmates when they were in school and fell in love with the same boy. In the end, the boy chose Yi Su instead of Sister Me. But this wasn't what angered Sister Me the most. What angered her the most was that not long after Yi Su snatched the boy, she dumped him and got together with the vice president of another entertainment company. Later, the boy was diagnosed with depression and went to the United States for treatment. He had yet to return. Sister Me hated Yi Su, and Yi Su didn't like Sister Me either. Naturally, their relationship wasn't good. Furthermore, they were managing different artists, so it was inevitable for them to compete with each other. However, Luo Qingshan was unwilling. It's a pity that some people don't even have the chance to ride on the hype. Luo Qingshan pressed the button for the 20th floor. She put her hands in her pockets and looked at Yi Su provocatively. Chapter 2499. Ching Ching, you don't have to tell her. Sister Mi changed from her usual submissive personality. She held her head high and looked at Yi Su coldly. Some people say the grapes are sour because they can't eat them. She wasn't angry because Yi Su fell in love with someone else and abandoned the boy they both fell in love with. She was angry because she felt that Yi Su's character wasn't good. She was a sentimental person. There was no need to say that it had to be someone else. Disgusting, pretentious, hypocritical. I can't eat grapes? Yi Su rolled her eyes mockingly and said with a smile, the female lead of youth is my artist, not yours. Sister Yi Su is right. If your family's Xinxian was really capable, she wouldn't lose to a newcomer who has never acted before. Jin Yixuan saw Gu Fanfan nervously lower her head and directly took her hand to declare war on Luo Qingchen. Jin Yixuan's actions made Luo Qingchen understand two things. In the first place, he remembered her earlier sarcasm and ridicule. Second, in just a few days, he had already officially gotten together with Gu Fanfan. But what Luo Qingchen didn't know was that Jin Yixuan's actions had another purpose. He wanted to see if Luo Qingchen really didn't like him anymore. After so many years of obedience, so many years of deep love, it couldn't change overnight. After coming out of the studio that day, he thought for a long time and had absolute confidence that Luo Qingchen definitely liked him. She was just playing hard to get. As the name implied, she was using another method to attract his attention. Even though her personality had changed a lot compared to before, it was still the same. But the bigger the change, the more it proved that she was doing it deliberately. Then at this time, he had to use a catalyst. He knew that Gu Fanfan had feelings for him. Therefore, the day before yesterday, he decisively confessed and asked her to be his girlfriend. If he treated Gu Fanfan extremely well, would his former fiancée be angry? All of a sudden, he really wanted to see her angry and jealous look. Yixuan, don't say that. Gu Fanfan quickly shook his head and said, Sister Qingchen is a senior. I was just lucky. Idiot. The next second, he gently patted her head and said, You got the role with your own strength. Why do you say it's luck? You can't say that. Sister Qingchen has also put in a lot of effort. Gu Fanfan glanced at Luo Qingchen and said, Actually, I owe you an apology, Sister Qingchen. During the audition, no need. Luo Qingchen narrowed her cold eyes, and her lips curled into a faint cold smile. Jin Yixuan is right. Why do you need to apologize for the female lead that you got with your skills? It's just that I don't like this role. She interrupted her not because she wanted to mock her, but because she really couldn't stand Gu Fanfan's Mary Sue spirit. Robbing was robbing, but he had to act like he was weak. It made people feel uncomfortable. She would rather that the other party was a villain who dared to take responsibility for his actions, than a hypocrite who made excuses for himself. Since in Jin Yixuan's eyes, his girlfriend was a kind and gentle Cinderella, and she was a vicious lady, then she interpreted the characters more vividly. Chapter 2500. Ha ha. Yi Su clearly didn't want her neighbor and good friend to be bullied. She directly retorted, You can only rely on popularity to attract attention. You'll be eliminated by a newcomer at the audition and then say that you don't like the role. Then may I ask, Miss Luo, if you don't like the role, why did you come to the audition? As expected of an agent who had been in the entertainment industry for many years. She didn't use a single vulgar word when she spoke, but every word pierced the heart. But fortunately, this kind of skill couldn't pierce her heart. Luo Qingchen felt warm. Her right hand pulled out an entertainment newspaper from a stack of folders held by Sister Mi. She raised it slightly and smiled. Miss Yisu has been in the entertainment industry for so long. You should know a common principle. The next second, she forcefully placed the newspaper in Gu Fanfan's hands. Her cold eyes narrowed as she looked at Yi Su. In this industry, we only look at the results and not the process. The entertainment headlines explained everything. Youth only ranked in the 30s for trash popularity. This was enough to prove who was today's main character. Yi Su's face was red. She was clearly confused by Luo Qingchen's retorting skills. The point was that she was speaking the truth. It was just like how she used the youth audition to attack her. In this industry, everyone looked at the results and not the process. Without results, the process was just empty talk. Just like at the youth audition, all the media only looked at the results and no one cared about the process. Just like no one cared about Gu Fanfan's momentum at the time. He spilled a cup of hot coffee on her, causing her to miss the opportunity. Perhaps it wasn't her, but the original owner. Ding dong, ding dong. The next second, a text message sounded at the same time, breaking the incomparably awkward atmosphere. A message from the director of Star Sky Group's agent. Although it was only a few words, it made Yi Su and Sister Mi's eyes light up. International top director Lee Yuan will visit Star Sky at 2 in the afternoon to cast a supporting role in a new drama, You're More Stunning Than Time. Ching, 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 Li Yuan. Sister Mi was very excited. She didn't even care that Yi Su was standing beside her. She was so excited that she almost jumped up. Huh. Yi Su shrugged and crossed her arms. An artist who can't even handle the female lead of youth. You want her to star in Director Lee's drama? To be honest, even a third or fourth female lead would be difficult. Yi Su's mockery completely ignited the anger in Sister Mi's heart. She raised her voice and looked at Yi Su. I beg of you, Yi Su. If my Qing doesn't have the qualifications to play the third or fourth female lead, then your family's newbie, with only 2,000 fans on Weibo, probably doesn't even have the qualifications to play a passerby. Chunmi. Fine, you just wait and see. Yi Su bit her lip and said, Fan isn't the only artist under me. Moreover, she's the female lead of youth. She might not have the time to act in Director Lee's script. Let's see who can get Director Lee's supporting female role. Yi Su stomped her 5 centimeters high heels on the floor and walked out of the elevator. Ding! Genie Xuan held Gu Fanfan's hand and followed Yi Su out of the elevator. When they reached a corner not far away, Gu Fanfan threw the entertainment newspaper in her hand into the trash can. To be honest, if Gu Fanfan had thrown the newspaper directly at her face, she would have appreciated her more. Chapter 25:01. Now Sister Mi, who was beside her, put her hands on her waist and said angrily, Too much. It's not worth getting angry with her. Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes. A faint light flashed in her clear eyes. What we need to do is to make her very angry. Compared to Gu Fanfan, the person she wanted to deal with more now was Yi Su. When the original owner walked on the road of no return, other than Genie Xuan, a large part of the reason was because of Yi Su. She knew that in Mary Sue's plot, there would always be a righteous person who would protect Mary Sue. She was now on the moral high ground, using the method of self-righteousness to deal with girls like Luo Qingchen. That's right. In their eyes, Luo Qingchen was called a vicious female supporting lead. Yes. Sister Mi seemed to have thought of something, looked at Luo Qingchen and said, We'll go to the VIP audition room in a while. There must be a lot of people want to play the role in time. This is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Director Li Yuan was quite famous in the industry. There was not a single movie or TV series he chose that wasn't popular. Even those who only played supporting roles in his movies were now one of the top movie stars. For most of the stars who wanted to play, this was an opportunity that could only be encountered by chance. Supporting role? Luo Qingchen snorted. A faint smile appeared on her face. Some people say that I don't have any ambition. It's true in front of some choices, but I can't be too unambitious. Suddenly thinking of Gong Yubai's appearance, she inexplicably felt warm. There was a very strange feeling. It seemed that he had already paved the way for her future, including fighting villains. Gu Fanfan, if you want to counterattack me, you have to see who the male lead is. If the male lead is Genie Xuan, he can indeed rise to the top. But if it's Gong Yubai, I'm afraid I have to ask God you if he agrees. You don't want to play the female lead of time, right? Sister Mi looked at her with a slightly surprised expression. Qing, I'm not doubting your ability. It's just that Director Li Yuan is really unpredictable. So strange? Luo Qingshun fell into deep thought. Since it was so strange, if Gong Yubai could still guarantee that she would get the role of the female lead so confidently. Then how powerful was his identity? That's right. Sister Me looked at her earnestly and said, "We should start with the supporting roles so that we can progress step by step." Luo Qingshun just chuckled and didn't respond. When they arrived at the office, the entire floor of the building was already filled with people. Everyone was talking about Li Yuan's personal trip to Star Sky Group to look for the supporting role of You're More Stunning Than Time. Everyone liked this opportunity to get to know Director Li. Moreover, this time, the male lead had already been decided. Although he was not a movie king, he was still a popular young man, Yi Shiruyang. Yi Shiruyang had no scandals, and his acting skills were very good. The previous movie was also shot by director Li Yuan. At that time, he only played a supporting role. Director Li Yuan appreciated him. This time, he gave up countless more popular male stars and chose him to be the male lead. Chapter 25:02. Sitting in the office, they could hear the chatter of the people outside through the large glass window. Everyone seemed to have a feeling that as long as they filmed director Li Yuan's movie, even if it was just a supporting role, they could become famous overnight. What do we do? I'm suddenly nervous. My palms are sweating. You think you're the only one who's nervous. I just want to cram on the plot of a novel. There are many female supporting roles in it, and they have many scenes. Then it looks like there's still a chance. I think you've been doing well recently. You're still worried about not being able to appear in director Li's movie. You can't say that. This is director Li Yuan. Even people with private offices want to act as female supporting roles, let alone us. Luo Qingshun didn't think much of the group of girls' discussion, but the next second, Yisu's voice made her frown slightly. You're right about that. Yisu crossed her arms and snorted through the glass door. But not all popular starlets can act in director Li's movie. Actors and actresses should still be judged by their acting skills. Isn't this Sister Yisu? Seeing Yisu speak, the little celebrity, little Momo, flattered, "Your artistes have been doing very well recently, especially that Gu Fan. I heard that he just entered the industry and got the chance to be the female lead of Youth. He's really amazing. Of course, my taste has always been good." Yisu raised her eyebrows and looked at Sister Me, who was standing not far away. Unlike some people, their taste is really bad. Yisu, what do you mean? You, Dong. The next second, the sound of the door opening could be heard. Luo Qingshun slowly opened the door and looked coldly at Yisu. I hate people who dance the most. Since you like to be in the limelight so much, why don't we make a bet in front of so many people? If some people didn't teach her a lesson, she would have already opened a dye shop in front of her office. Really annoying. Sure. How do you want to bet? Yisu looked up arrogantly and first glanced at Sister Me. Then her gaze fell on Luo Qingshun. In fact, compared to Luo Qingshun, she disliked Chunmi more. Originally, she was too lazy to deal with a rising star like Luo Qingshun. Who told her to choose an agent like Chunmi? She could only say that she deserved it and couldn't be blamed. I like to gamble on exciting things. Luo Qingshun narrowed her cold eyes and smiled. Gambling is boring if it's not exciting. Yisu froze. Seeing the smile on Luo Qingshun's face, she felt inexplicably flustered. She didn't know why, but she felt that Luo Qingshun had changed. In the past, although she was arrogant, she didn't have such eyes. It was a kind of aura that looked down on everyone, and she couldn't help but feel a little scared. But even though she was afraid, she couldn't let herself show it. Sure, let's bet. I've been in Starry Sky for so many years, I don't believe I can't beat a little girl like you. Yisu seemed to have been provoked by Luo Qingshun and said directly, How do you want to bet? How about we bet on director Li Yuan's time? Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes coldly and said, Whoever gets the highest C position wins, and the loser directly leaves the entertainment industry. Hiss! At this moment, everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. The surrounding murmurs sounded again. Luo Qingshun looked at Yisu's slightly pale face and felt an inexplicable joy in her heart. Chapter 25:03. Oh my God! Luo Qingshun is going all out. This is her path to stardom. That's right. She said that in front of so many people. If she loses, Wouldn't she really have to leave the entertainment industry? Actually, I know a bit about the grudge between Sister Me and Sister Yi Su. Luo Qingshun is standing up for Sister Me so handsomely. It makes me feel like a young girl. It might not be Sister Me. Do you remember before? That unknown Gu Fan stole the female lead role of youth. This time, no matter what, she has to fight for her honor. But the problem is, the person fighting with her for the supporting role might not be Gu Fan. Sister Yisu's Wan and Xiao Kuei aren't A-listers, but they're still B-listers. Also, who knows what Director Li's personality is like? At this moment, Yisu felt her heart skip a beat and her palms were sweating. Luo Qingqin's aura pressed down on her, making her unable to breathe. With so many people looking at her, she couldn't just change her mind and say no. That would be too demoralizing. How could she raise her head in front of Chunmi in the future? In the next second, Yisu bit her lip and looked at Luo Qingqin. Fine, let's bet. I don't believe that someone who can't even beat Fan after being in the industry for so long has the ability to say that she can beat my artists. Enough. Stop bragging. Luo Qingqin sneered. Remember, the result is the most important. As soon as her voice fell, Luo Qingqin gave a cold laugh and walked forward with her hands in her pockets. Sister Me followed behind her with small, nervous steps. When she spoke in her ear, her voice was trembling. Ching, ching, ching. You. When they reached the elevator, Sister Me heavily patted her chest. My heart, I'm old and can't take your torture. My little ancestor, do you have to fight so hard? What's there to be afraid of? Luo Qingqin pursed her lips and chuckled. Although I'm not a coward, it doesn't mean I'll fight a battle I'm not confident in. She believed in Gong Yubai and everything he said. Since he told her that she was the female lead of time, it couldn't be anyone else. Even if Director Li Yuan was difficult to deal with, she was not flustered at all. Then why did you make such a bet? Sister Me paced back and forth, her brows furrowed as she said, I was too engrossed in watching you scold her just now, so I couldn't stop you. Even if you have a 99% chance of defeating the supporting character, there's still a 1% chance of an accident. This girl's way of doing things was really different from before. Today's incident had really frightened her. Now, she could only do her best to watch her perform. She could also resign herself to fate and hope that Director Li Yuan would appreciate her. Supporting role. Luo Qingqin chuckled and said, Who said that the highest C position must be a supporting role? What? Let's go eat first. We have to see the director in the afternoon. Luo Qingqin put her arm around her shoulder and smiled. Don't worry. New grudges and old grudges. We'll take revenge together. Wait. After entering the elevator, Sister Me pressed the button for the first floor. She immediately grabbed her hand and said, Little ancestor, you might not know what kind of temper Director Li Yuan has, but I know it very well. He came this time to look for a supporting role. The female lead candidate has already been decided in his heart. Chapter 2504. I'll come find you this afternoon and have two things to tell you. Gong Yubai, it's a good thing for me, and I think it'll be the same for you. Gong Yubai, why aren't you replying? It seems like it's time to admit to the scandal on Weibo. Gong Yubai. Luo Qingqin was stunned as she looked at the time of the last message. It said, 40 seconds ago. She didn't respond to Sister Me, as she quickly replied to Gong Yubai on her phone. Are you insulting someone? Luo Qingqin. Gong Yubai on the other side of the phone saw that there was a response from the WeChat that he hadn't received in a long time, and his heart filled with joy. Adding in the fact that a certain person was acting cute to her, the anxious feeling he had after waiting for a long time was instantly swept away. Rather, there was an indescribable joy. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 40%. After that, he immediately sent a reply to Luo Qingqin. Who are you insulting? Do you need help? Who dares bully our great female lead? Listening to the system's notification that she had increased the favorability rating, coupled with Gong Yubai's protective tone between the lines, she was in a particularly good mood. You'll know when you come this afternoon. Seeing my miserable state in the starry sky, Luo Qingqin, at the end of the sentence, she didn't forget to act cute, trying to gain the sympathy of the great god Yu. She seemed to have completely forgotten how arrogant she was when she made the bed in front of his office. In front of Gone You By, she seemed to be even more childish. DD. After a few seconds, the sound of WeChat rang out again. Gone You By only replied with two simple words. Wait for me. Gone You By. There were some times when, although it was just short words, it made people's hearts feel very warm. Hearing the elevator open with a ding sound, her lips had a smile that was hard to hide. AI, you can still smile. Sister Me, standing on the side, said in a dejected voice, even if those two people were to pull my face, I wouldn't be able to smile. Her heart was filled with anxiety. Right now, she felt like an ant on a hot pan, burning with a burning sensation. Don't worry, I'll treat you to a meal. Luo Qingchun smiled and said, let's have a good meal to celebrate. I'll pay the bill. She originally wanted to properly explain the matter to Sister Me, but because of the doomsday dream between her and Gone You By, there were some things that could not be explained clearly in a short period of time. She couldn't possibly say that she had just met the nation's Prince Charming, Gone You By, who was originally cold and aloof, but had suddenly fallen in love with her at first sight. Celebrate? He. Sister Me said with a distressed expression, I don't think I can even drink soda, let alone eat a good meal. Humans are made of iron, and rice is made of steel. No matter what happens, we still have to eat. Luo Qingqian shrugged her shoulders and smiled. Eating and drinking is enough to watch a good show. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Sister Me once again patted her chest and said, let the storm come even fiercer. Let's go eat KFC. Luo Qingqian couldn't help but laugh and said, you really save money for me. Luo Qingqian never thought that she would be slapped in the face for saving money, but the reality was that she was slapped in the face. Because Sister Me ate 2 big buckets of family buckets, but not because it was expensive, but because her appetite really made her look at her in a new light. Sister, is this necessary? Luo Qingqian drank 2 mouthfuls, and at this moment, she was completely dumbfounded. Chapter 2505. Pooh, Luo Qingqian chuckled. No matter how unsatisfactory the result is, I'm the one leaving Starry Sky. Why are you going to the Yellow Springs Road? Goo. Sister Me drank 2 mouthfuls of 9 Treasures fruit juice. You made this bet with Yi Su because of me. Although I can't be that handsome, I can still do it. Do what? Hold hands with you and leave Starry Sky together. Sister Me shrugged. I'm just a third-rate agent anyways. It doesn't matter where I go. Luo Qingqian looked at Sister Me's carefree and heartless appearance. She suddenly felt that the original owner had a good eye for choosing an agent, but her eye for men was a bit lacking. Don't worry, you'll have what you want. Luo Qingqian patted her shoulder. It's not a bad thing to miss out on a scumbag. Actually, she could see that Sister Me had something on her mind, and it should be related to the person she liked. That man chose Yi Su in the end, but was abandoned by Yi Su. Although many years had passed, some scars had healed, but they would not forget the pain. He's not a scumbag. After a few seconds, Sister Me raised her eyes slightly and looked at Luo Qingqian with red eyes. It's just that I met a bad person. Luo Qingqian narrowed her eyes and chuckled. Although there's no wine here, if you want to tell a story, I'll be a very quiet listener. Sister Me thought for a bit and pursed her lips. Then don't tell anyone. This is all old and rotten sesame seeds. Why do you care so much? Luo Qingqian looked at Sister Me's nervous appearance and couldn't help feeling a bit surprised. Sure enough, you can't judge a book by its cover. Some people were laughing all day long, but in reality, there was always an unknown throbbing in the depths of their hearts. Wounds didn't need to be opened often for others to see, but it was also a good thing if there were 1 or 2 people to share the troubles in their hearts. Anyway, you can't say. We made a promise. I won't say. In the next half an hour, Luo Qingqian roughly understood the grudges between Sister Me and Yi Su. The person who intervened between them was called Lin Lan. He was a clean and clear-eyed youth. The first person to like Lin Lan was Sister Me. At that time, she told Yi Su all the secrets in her heart. She treated Yi Su as her best friend and shared the deepest secrets in her heart. She didn't know that Yi Su had directly told Lin Lan this matter. Luo Qing Chun could understand this kind of heart. Some people's personalities were like this. They clearly liked someone, but they used the excuse of their friend liking them to approach them. Yi Su was such a person. She also liked Lin Lan, but she didn't have a legitimate reason to approach him. Every time she went to look for Lin Lan, she would always pretend to be reluctant and convey Sister Mi's thoughts. But in fact, she wanted to get close to Lin Lan. Love after a long time was definitely more profound than love at first sight. With a chattering maid beside her all day long, Lin Lan was also moved. Until one afternoon, Yi Su went to find Lin Lan and told her about Sister Mi's feelings for him. She likes me doesn't mean I like her. Then who do you like? To put it nicely, you want me to give you some advice. I like you. Some love didn't sprout in an instant, but through the accumulation of time. Chapter 2506. Wow, so you've never been with Lin Lan? Listening to Sister Mi's explanation, Luo Qingshun was a little surprised. After all, between the lines of her quarrel with Yi Su, Luo Qingshun always thought that Sister Mi and Lin Lan were together at the beginning, and Yi Su stole her love. And Sister Mi sighed bitterly and said, "But the love of a secret crush is still love. I just think that if Yi Su liked Lin Lan, she would have told me from the beginning that she didn't have to use this method. She could accept a fair competition, but Yi Su used other people's thoughts as a bargaining chip in exchange for a topic of conversation with the person she liked. This would make her feel like a clown, and she couldn't accept it. This method does make people feel uncomfortable." Luo Qingshan nodded in agreement, thought for a while, and asked, "So you broke up because of this?" "Of course not." Sister Mi shook her head. "Although I lost my temper with Yi Su at that time, after going back and thinking about it, it's not that I can't understand. Since Lin Lan likes her, no matter what method she used, Lin Lan likes her." That's right. "But I can't accept that after she got Lin Lan, she fell in love with someone else because of her ambition in her career. I really can't accept it." When she said this, Luo Qingshan could feel the excitement between the lines of Sister Mi's words and the sound of her sobbing. It seems that this matter to her was like a bomb hidden in the depths of her heart, igniting at the slightest touch. "That's right." Luo Qingshan imitated Sister Mi and drank a few mouthfuls of fruit juice, pursed her lips, and smiled. "Let's settle the past grudges together this afternoon. Come on, little ancestor. I don't care about the grudges between me and her now. As long as you don't cause any trouble, I'll be very happy. You'll know this afternoon. The entertainment industry only looks at results, right? Let's let her see what results are." After eating, it was nearly 1:30. When they returned to the company, Director Li Yuan's VIP audition room was already packed with people. Other than the executives of Starry Sky, there were only a few big-name first-line managers. Of course, this did not include Yi Su. This time, Yi Su prepared twice as much. Apart from bringing Gu Fan Fan to the audition, she also brought Okra along. In the past year, Oki had participated in many TV dramas with the theme of youth. She had a sweet round face and looked very much like a student. "Yo, you're finally here. You have to line up properly, okay?" Yi Su saw Sister Mi walking over and crossed her arms in front of her chest, looking proud and arrogant. In fact, Luo Qingshan could see that she was just trying to hide her nervousness. "You speak as if you've already won the first supporting role," Sister Mi retorted, not giving her any face at all. "I haven't gotten it yet, but I'll get it soon." Although Yi Su was a little flustered, her tone was filled with absolute confidence. After all, it was 2 against 1. If she failed, there was still another. But if Luo Qingshan failed, they would have no chance at all. Luo Qingshan was too lazy to pay attention to her, because she felt that if she still argued with Yi Su at this time, it would be too degrading. "Everyone make way, make way." In the next second, an unfamiliar voice came from behind. Chapter 2507. Isn't this Director Li's male lead? Yi Su was the first to step forward and smiled. "It's your first time in Starry Sky. Starry Sky and Fantasy have been fighting to the death for years. This time, there's a chance to cooperate." "Manager Yi, I've heard a lot about you." Yi Shuyang's manager stopped in front of her and smiled politely. "We'll go in and talk to Director Li first." Excuse us. Oh. Yisu's expression was a bit awkward, but she immediately recovered her smile and said, you go first. When Yi Shiliang and his manager entered the audition room, Yisu's expression immediately changed, and she muttered, what's so cocky about it? If Yi Shiliang wasn't going to act in time, this manager can't compare to me at all. Okay? Sister Yisu is the best, Chiao Kuei said sweetly. How can she be compared to you? Of course he can't be compared to me, but if he's confirmed to be the male lead in director Lee's new drama, then his value will increase several times over. Yisu coldly snorted. Although she was unhappy, there was nothing she could say. Sister Mi, who was standing beside Luo Qingshun, whispered, there aren't many people in the entertainment circle who can control Yisu's temper. She's one of them. She? Yi Shiliang's manager, Wang Shi. Sister Mi's eyebrows moved slightly. She does things her own way and offends a lot of people. Luo Qingshun nodded and didn't say anything. She was in a hurry and couldn't make too many comments on others. After a while, the door of the audition room was opened. Director Li Yuan's assistant said to everyone, come in. Director Li is a casual person. Everyone be more casual. At this moment, everyone flocked into the audition room. This was the first time she saw Li Yuan since she came to this world. He was a middle-aged man wearing a China windrobe. He looked very chivalrous and had a very special temperament. To be fair, one by one entered the independent room. The assistant pointed to the room behind him and said, I have the list of all the registered artists. Those whose names are called, follow me. Yi Shiliang sat on the chair on the other side. He looked at Luo Qingshun and smiled at her. Actually, he already knew that the female lead of time was Luo Qingshun, but he didn't tell anyone. The two of them entered the industry at the same time and had a good relationship. He had been looking forward to this cooperation. In addition, Luo Qingshun and he had kept his secret, so he naturally kept his secret. The artists who entered first were all newcomers, including Gu Fanfan. Jin Yishuan arrived later, but he had been standing beside Gu Fanfan ever since he arrived. The two of them were whispering, and even Luo Qingshun, who was 5 or 6 people away, could hear them. This was really deliberate. It was too obvious. In the end, even Gu Fanfan reminded Jin Yishuan to keep his voice down, but Jin Yishuan was not convinced. From time to time, he would look at Luo Qingshun. Over the past few days, the resentment in his heart had not dissipated. Instead, it had deepened. In addition, he received a call from his parents at noon today. The Luo family completely decided to cancel the engagement. He originally thought that Luo Qingshun was just playing hard to get. Suddenly, he was slapped in the face by the fact. She was not playing hard to get. She just wanted to break up with him. Why? Why did Luo Qingshun, who had always been very good to him and listened to him, suddenly change her temperament? Chapter 25:08. Jin Yishuan guessed that this person was the male lead of time, Yi Shiliang. The reason why he rushed to the audition room was not for Gu Fanfan, but to confirm whether Luo Qingshun's attitude towards him changed 1,000 miles because of Yi Shiliang. She even broke off the engagement with him at all costs. After the observation just now, he was 90% sure that Luo Qingshun's attitude towards him changed because of Yi Shiliang. Because Yi Shiliang's eyes fell on Luo Qingshun from beginning to end and never moved away. Damn it. And he was the male lead chosen by director Li Yuan. It really made him unhappy. Logically speaking, his traffic and popularity was definitely not lower than Yi Shiliang's. Why didn't he have a chance? Therefore, the other purpose of going to the audition room this time was to show his face in front of director Li Yuan. If there was an accident, he might have chance. The auditions for the supporting roles came one after another. Whether it was Gu Fanfan or Chiao Kuei, they were all called. Only Luo Qingshun's name was not called. The more time passed, the more anxious Sister Mi became. She clearly gave Luo Qingshun's information to director Li's assistant. How could it not be? The last group, Lin Yao Yao, AI Me, Baby Shimu, please go to the independent audition room. The last group? Sister Mi was shocked. She wanted to go up and say something to director Li's assistant, but was directly interrupted by the assistant. Please wait a moment. If you have any questions, wait until after this group's performance is over. okay? The next second, the assistant turned around and walked towards the audition room, leaving behind a dumbfounded Sister Me and a burst of sharp ridicule. Ha ha ha! Yisu looked at Sister Me and almost couldn't stop laughing. Sure enough, some people's acting is so bad that they don't even have the qualifications to audition. At this moment, Sister Me's face instantly turned red. She pointed at Yisu in exasperation and said, Don't be arrogant, okay? She really felt that her vocabulary was lacking. She didn't know what to say at this moment. But at this time, her family's little ancestor who was invincible suddenly stopped talking. I'm arrogant? What does this have to do with being arrogant? Yisu crossed her arms and looked at her mockingly. If you're not qualified for the audition, then you're not qualified. How can you blame me for that? Director Li Yuan has good taste. He won't take a liking to her, okay? How do you know whether or not she likes you? Luo Qingqian's cold eyes narrowed. Her eyes were full of coldness. Why wouldn't I know? Yisu immediately replied, Don't forget about the bet. What do you plan to leave the starry sky? Don't go back on your word. As soon as she finished speaking, she laughed out loud. Little did she know that her laughter was directly interrupted by Director Li himself. He sat in front of the machine and gently waved his hand. He looked at Luo Qingqian and said, Qingqian, come over here and take a look. Which one of them is suitable for the role of Yi Nuanyang? She has more scenes with you, so you decide. At this moment, the entire VIP audition room fell into a dead silence. In fact, before coming here, she had already received an email from Director Li Yuan. The title of the email was like this, 2:00 this afternoon, inviting Miss Luo to choose a female supporting character together. Therefore, she was very clear that she wasn't here for the audition, but to choose someone who had already auditioned. Chapter 2509. Everyone started talking at once. For some reason, even Luo Qingqian felt excited at this moment. She felt inexplicably excited. Even the gossips that poured in her ears sounded so crisp and sweet. What does this mean? Has Qingqian been confirmed to act in time? But if I remember correctly, Yi Nuanying's character is a very important supporting female character in You're More Stunning Than Time. Yeah, then who is Luo Qing playing? Oh my god, I'm so shocked. This is such a shocking piece of news. What should we do? I suddenly remembered that someone made a bet with someone on the 20th floor this morning. The onlookers didn't mind watching the drama unfold. Plus, there were no absolute friends in the entertainment industry. The more resources a person stole, the more enemies they would have, even if they usually looked kind on the surface. Once the other party had a problem, they would draw a line in the sand. Some people would even add insult to injury. Yisu's face turned pale. Even her lips couldn't stop trembling. Her heart jumped to her throat. This was something that couldn't be covered up, no matter how she pretended. Chioke, who was standing beside her, was shocked. She timidly took 2 steps back. Gu Fanfan nervously circled her hands in front of her chest. Jeannie Xuan stood beside her and softly comforted her. It's okay. Don't worry. Even if she plays a supporting role, you and Xiaokuei still have a chance. But I'm still worried. I feel that I'm not good enough. I'm afraid that Xiaokuei won't pass and will implicate Sister Yisu. Gu Fanfan's voice was choking as she spoke. She thought that she was kind-hearted. No matter what she did, she would always consider the other party first. Other than that, she also had a little bit of selfishness. She wanted Jean Yishuan to comfort her. She didn't know why, but she felt that Jean Yishuan's gaze would be on Luo Qingqian ever since they entered the VIP audition room. She didn't like this feeling. This was something that belonged to her. Why should she give it to someone else? Jean Yishuan treated her very well. He doted on her like a little princess. This feeling made her dizzy and intoxicated. He always took her to expensive restaurants to eat. But in order to save money for him, she would always take him to the food stalls near their house to eat all kinds of delicious food. The feeling of holding skewers and milk tea in his hands was especially great. Jean Yishuan also felt very surprised. They walked hand in hand through the busy streets and alleys, sharing each other's thoughts. She knew very well that she was special in Jean Yishuan's eyes. Perhaps it was because he was always surrounded by arrogant young ladies, which made him feel tired. Yes, She was a Cinderella, but a Cinderella with a kind heart. She was very motivated and had been going to the filming crew for interviews ever since she graduated. This time, getting the female lead role of Youth wasn't just a matter of luck for her, it was a matter of her ability. It was a role that she had won with her own abilities. She felt that this was the luckiest year of her life. Not only did she become a true celebrity, but she also gained her love. Don't worry. Jin Yixuan touched her head gently and said, "You have to believe in yourself. If we can get the role of Yi Nuanyang, we will still be victorious. But I'm just very scared." She grabbed Jin Yixuan's sleeve and said, "What should I do?" Chapter 25:10. When Jin Yixuan said this, his eyes still fell on Luo Qingxian from time to time. In the face of so many rumors, she didn't say a word, but walked directly in the direction of Director Li Yuan. Chiu Kuei, who was standing at the side, whispered to Yi Su, "Sister Yi Su, what should we do?" If she had to choose, she definitely wouldn't choose me and Fan Fan to play Yi Nuanyang. Yi Su gritted her teeth and stared at Luo Qingxian, who was not far in front of her. Chiu Kuei was right. They had already lost 90% of the bet this morning. Right now, they could only pray for a miracle or an accident to happen. Damn it, Yi Su angrily muttered in a low voice. When exactly did she hook up with Director Li Yuan to actually let her come across such a good opportunity? Yi Su's whispers seemed to have been heard by Sister Mi, who had just recovered from the surprise. She replied with a haughty look, "Some people can't eat grapes, so they say the grapes are sour. Instead of saying this, why don't you think about how to write your resignation letter after leaving Starry Sky?" Yi Su was already half dead from anger, and with Sister Mi's words, her face was half green and half white from anger. On the other side, Luo Qingxian was already sitting next to Director Li Yuan, watching the audition just now. To be honest, if she were to judge Gu Fan Fan from afar and just point of view, not to mention acting skills, she wouldn't be able to do it. Director Li asked them to perform a scene of the supporting female lead Yi Nuanyang at the train station in time. The senior who had been unrequited for many years wanted to chase after her beloved, and Yi Nuanyang followed behind him to accompany him. Unfortunately, she had a big fall on the platform and was bleeding profusely. The senior looked back, but in the end, he didn't stop. Yi Nuanyang's tears fell drop by drop, and she said in an extremely desolate voice, "Thank you for taking away all the fairy tales of my youth." The whole scene gave a lot of things to the actors, but there was only one line. Gu Fanfan's early acting skills were not good enough, but even his lines were recited like he was reciting a textbook. Regarding Gu Fanfan's scene, Director Li Yuan did not even look at it completely and directly skipped it. In fact, a veteran actor or a more experienced director could tell at a glance whether or not an actor was in character. "Director, is this still pending?" Seeing Director Li skip the scene directly, the assistant standing by the side and recording asked, "You acted better than her." Although Director Li Yuan's voice was not loud, many people heard it. Even people standing at certain angles could see that the person on the screen was Gu Fan Fan. They all looked in her direction. Why are they all looking at me? Gu Fan Fan was stunned for a moment, somewhat confused. Jin Yixuan roughly understood the reason and hurriedly explained to her, "It's because you're good-looking and capable enough to become the female lead of youth. Naturally, they'll look at you." He could lower his voice to prevent others from hearing him. Gu Fan Fan listened to Jin Yixuan's words and felt a lot more at ease. However, she did not see the frown on Jin Yixuan's face. Luo Qingxian has been sitting next to Director Li Yuan, watching the audition scene just now. When the scene came to Oki, she looked at it seriously. Chapter 25:11. Although Yi Nuanyang was a very lively person, the scene on the platform was probably the saddest moment of her life. She used her entire youth to love someone, but in the end, she didn't even walk into that person's black and white zone. The loneliest scenery in the world was when you looked at the scenery under the bridge, and I looked at you from the bridge. Although Chiu Kuei's acting was remarkable, it was all those small actions that pretended to be wrong, which made people who saw it inevitably feel a little pretentious. Director Li also frowned with a serious face, but in the end, he still shook his head and said, "Eliminate her." "Got it." The assistant responded, Director Lee, this is the last scene. There are a total of 6 people on standby, and 21 people are eliminated. Director Li Yuan nodded and looked at Luo Qingchun, who was sitting on the side, and said, Qingchun, who do you think is better among the 6? To be honest, when Director Li said this, everyone in the audition room looked at Luo Qingchun. The bet on the 20th floor of Starry Sky this morning was still vivid in everyone's mind, but at 2 in the afternoon, this bet almost became a joke. Director Li, aren't you joking? Yi Su couldn't help but say, how can such an important supporting role be decided by a little girl? Moreover, she missed the opportunity to be the female lead of Youth before. Yi Su knew very well that if she said this at this moment, people would definitely say that the grapes are sour if you can't eat them. But she had no other choice. If she didn't say anything at this time, then she would really lose. Everyone present knew that Yi Nuanyang was the most important role on the list of supporting roles that Director Li was going to choose today. So even if Luo Qingchun was a specific supporting role, it wouldn't be a C-level supporting role. Therefore, as long as either Gu Fanfan or Chiu Kuei got the role of Yi Nuanyang, then she and Luo Qingchun didn't lose the bet this time. Who are you? Li Yuan's face instantly darkened. What he hated the most in his life was this kind of gossiping behavior. The artists under his management didn't have the ability to get the opportunity to play the role, so they spared no effort to slander others. In his eyes, this kind of person would never be able to achieve great things. Hello, Director Li. I'm a member of Starry Sky's agent team. My name is Yi Su. Yi Su calmed herself down and said, I think it's unfair for a predetermined supporting character to choose a more important supporting character. Yi Su didn't seem to hear Li Yuan's cold snort. Instead, she continued, You see, the reason Starry Sky chooses actors suitable for the script is to unearth more talents. Since it's like this, I think it's better to be fair. She thought that when she spoke these righteous words, there would certainly be people who would respond to her. Unexpectedly, no one said anything. After a long time, Director Li Yuan coldly raised his eyebrows, looked at her, and said, Finished. Yi Su paused and hurriedly said, Yes. I'm done. This was the first time she spoke to Director Li Yuan. This eccentric director almost never contacted any agents and was very cold. Therefore, Yi Su was a little nervous when she spoke for the first time. First of all, there is one place where I would like to correct what you just said. Li Yuan's heavy voice resounded throughout the entire room. Please speak. Chapter 25:12. At this moment, everyone in the room sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Luo Qingchun in disbelief. At this moment, even Sister Mi opened her mouth wide and revealed a stunned expression. No one expected that the supporting role that was specially selected for time would actually include a female lead. Mu Chuxia. 3 months ago, when Time was preparing to be filmed into a TV series, many first- and second-tier female stars recommended themselves to play this role. But Li Yuan's personality was strange. The male and female leads he chose didn't need to be explained to anyone, nor did they need to be explained to anyone. Once he decided, it was a matter of final decision. No one could refute it. Li Yuan also didn't expect that Yi Su would actually appear to refute his decision. After half a second of silence, the entire room exploded. Oh my god, Qingchun is playing Mu Chuxia? Damn. This is simply a stunned baby. So Qingchun didn't come to apply for the supporting role at all. She's the female lead. F***CK. This is too much of a slap in the face. If I were Yi Su, I would feel my face burning in pain. TSK. No wonder Luo Qingchun dared to bet with her. She was already prepared. Hearing all these discussions, Yi Su's legs turned to jelly. She staggered back and almost lost her balance. How could it be? How could Luo Qingchun be playing the female lead? A female star who couldn't even compete with the female lead of Youth. How could she be the female lead that Director Li Yuan chose? Luo Qingchun, you schemed against me. Yi Su roared with a flushed face, looked at her, and said, You knew and still made me bet with you. How despicable your character is. TSK. Luo Qingshun stood with her hands behind her back, sneered and shook her head. You're angry out of humiliation. This wasn't what Yi Su's manager said when she was talking at the door of my office this morning. Since she had already said those words, she had to bear the corresponding consequences. Yi Su was speechless. She wanted to say something, but the words were stuck in her throat. Everyone present also looked at her, as if they were watching a good show, and no one spoke up for her. At this moment, the female lead with the so-called Mary Sue halo stood up. Miss Luo, you don't have to be like this. This circle is filled with hostility. Gu Fanfan patted Yi Su's back and looked at Luo Qingchen. You don't have to be so proud. TSK, TSK, TSK. Luo Qingchen couldn't help but say in her heart, Mary Sue is amazing. She always has a way to talk about deep hatred from the moral high ground and make it sound like it's nothing. They thought that they were great heroes who were upholding justice, but in fact, it was just that things didn't happen to them. They could always speak from a perfect point of view. Facing this kind of person, Luo Qingchen would only use the same method to deal with her. That was the most direct way. Gu Fanfan, don't you know how you stole Xia Qiqi's role from me? I still have the scars from your coffee burr on my hand. Have you forgotten? In the next second, everyone's eyes fell on Gu Fanfan. The person who always stood on the moral high ground and was always so kind and upright suddenly became different. Don't twist the truth. Gu Fanfan gritted his teeth and said, Me accidentally spilling coffee on you is one thing. Me getting the female lead role of youth is another. Chapter 25:13. Okay. Gu Fanfan took a deep breath and bit his lip. I'll take responsibility for your bet with Yi Su's sister. You don't have to be so aggressive. Luo Qingchen couldn't help but sneer. In fact, in this kind of situation, it was very clear to distinguish the difference between Mary Sue and White Lotus. Generally speaking, in this kind of situation, White Lotus would use another excuse to distance herself from the people involved to avoid being involved in the dispute. But Mary Sue was different. She would use another way to interpret a different kind of justice and make everyone like her. Reasonably speaking, from a standpoint of three views, Gu Fanfan's actions were above moral behavior. But what she didn't like was that this kind of behavior was built on the basis of sacrificing others. Mary Sue also had her own pride. She also wanted to be the center of attention. If she didn't want to, then she wouldn't have accepted the role of the female lead of youth with a clear conscience. Luo Qingchen knew that deep in her heart, she really wanted this role. Since Miss Gu's words are so righteous, then I have a question. Luo Qingchen raised her eyebrows and the corner of her mouth curved into a sneer. If I lost the bet today, would you tell manager Yi not to be so aggressive? At this moment, Gu Fanfan was instantly speechless. She wanted to refute something, but she couldn't continue after saying you a few times. Until a few seconds later, she seemed to pull out a reason from between her teeth and stuttered. If you lost, Yi Su's sister would definitely treat this bet as if it never happened. But everyone is so competitive, so disregarding other people's feelings, so selfish. Pa 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 pa. Luo Qingchen couldn't help but applaud for her and laughed. Well said, but Luo Qingchen wanted to properly refute this Mary Sue, but she didn't expect that many people in the crowd couldn't stand it anymore. Of course, there were inevitably some people who were dissatisfied with Yi Su. What's good about it? This is the entertainment industry, not a charity hall. So if she doesn't protect Gu Fanfan, she's being aggressive? That's right. You're a newbie who doesn't know anything. Yet you're saying that Yi Su will be magnanimous and pretend it never happened. I'm afraid you know how Lin Lin's manager left Starry Sky. Isn't it? At that time, Starry Sky's top manager, Lin Lin, was forced away by Yi Su, okay? Gu Fanfan's cheeks were covered with shame after a few whispers, and the intentional people added insult to injury. Although she had stumbled a little in her life, once something big happened, the god of luck seemed to always be on her side. As long as one prayed sincerely, everything would turn for the better. She felt that she had an inexplicable halo that protected her all the time. Just as she was about to cry, she bit her lips. The entire audition room was filled with all sorts of text messages. Everyone picked up the phone immediately and then looked at Yi Shiliang, who had been sitting on the sofa, not far away in shock. The moment he received everyone's gaze, Yi Shiliang froze for a moment and then frowned. Generally speaking, in the entertainment industry, if someone sent a message to their manager at the same time, it was definitely a big deal. Chapter 25:14. For a moment, everyone turned their attention to Yi Shiliang at the same time, which made Yi Su and the others heave a sigh of relief. Gu Fanfan's expression also improved a lot. Sure enough, whenever she was in a dilemma, she always felt that she had become very lucky. It was as if she had taken a lucky potion, and the top of her head was shining brightly. Genie Xuan, who was standing beside him, moved his eyebrows slightly, and a deep look flashed through his eyes. Gu Fanfan heaved a sigh of relief, gently tugged at his sleeve, and asked, "What happened?" "I don't know." Genie Xuan shook his head and said, "But I feel that it must not be a good thing." How could it be a good thing? He had just anonymously exposed the fact that Yi Shiliang was suspected of taking drugs with foreign friends. As a person in the entertainment industry, how could he not have any information on hand? He could only blame Yi Shiliang for bumping into his gun, which made his heart feel suffocated. He didn't know why. Was it because of Luo Qingxun? Maybe, maybe not. In short, he deeply felt that his vanity could not be satisfied. At the same time, Luo Qingxun took Sister Mi's phone and frowned as she looked at the news on it. There were a total of 10 photos. The scene was in a bar, and the passers-by were all blonde. It could be roughly judged that this bar was abroad. Every photo had a center point, and that center point was Yi Shiliang. These 10 photos looked very indecent. Although the person in the photos was very blurry, it should be Yi Shiliang. The entertainment industry was like this. Even if it was a picture at the beginning, the process was all made up, and it had a great impact on the people involved. It seemed that Yi Shiliang had been targeted by someone with ulterior motives. Time was about to set all the supporting roles and start filming immediately. Under such circumstances, whether Yi Shiliang had taken drugs with foreign friends or not, no matter what the truth was, it would be difficult for him to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River in a short period of time. Not only that, if the public relations crisis was not handled well, negative news would surge out in an instant. In order to gain sales, those entertainment magazines would exaggerate and slander others. It's not like that. Yi Shiliang looked a little anxious. He blurted out almost immediately after seeing the photos in his agent's phone. However, if one thought about it carefully, it was normal for him to be anxious. After all, Yi Shiliang was also a newcomer. In addition, he had struggled for so many years and finally became a popular young actor. When he was about to start filming a popular TV series, such negative news suddenly appeared, which was undoubtedly a fatal blow to him. The agent, Lin Jingjing, hurriedly pressed on his shoulder and shook her head. "Director Li, in addition to such a tricky matter, we also have to go back and discuss the public relations countermeasures." And Li Yuan frowned and nodded slightly. "That's true, but time's going to start filming tomorrow. I've already decided on the rental time of the venue and some of the actors." Li Yuan naturally cherished talent, but he had a lifetime of fame in the entertainment industry, and no matter what, he did not want to have anything to do with the news of taking drugs. Lin Jingjing naturally understood this. As long as this matter was clarified, there would still be a chance for the big director to film in the future. However, if he was entangled with Li Yuan to negotiate terms, it would be even more disadvantageous for Yi Shiliang, who had already fallen into negative news. Chapter 25:15. Sister Jingjing. Yi Shiliang bit his lips, and under his handsome face, there was a look of embarrassment. He wanted to play this role, not entirely because of how good the script was, nor how high director Li's popularity was, but he could play a couple with Luo Qingxun. When he first debuted, he especially liked Luo Qingxun. She had worked very hard to stand out and become friends with her during one of the auditions. But in the end, the two had no chance to cooperate, and this time was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. If he missed this village, there would be no such shop. "Don't talk." Lin Jingjing almost immediately scolded him seriously and in a low voice. Then she looked at Director Li and said, "Next time, I hope Director Li can give our Shiliang a chance." If director Lee still can't find a suitable male lead after investigating the facts, Shirleyang will still be very honored to cooperate with you. Lin Jingjing naturally knew that it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Yi Shirleyang to play the male lead in Time, directed by Li Yuan. She didn't want to give up, but she knew very well that the person in the photos just now was indeed Yi Shirleyang. And the so-called foreign friend was Yi Shirleyang's half-sister. This was a family matter, and Lin Jingjing wasn't completely clear. She only knew that Yi Shirleyang had such a sister, and this sister was mixed race, because the mother was British. Therefore, the photos were undoubtedly true, and then this matter was even more troublesome. If the photos were fake, they could send a public relations statement and sue the other party's lawyer for defamation, and this matter would soon be settled. But if the photos were true, then this matter couldn't be solved in a short time. For the long-term interests, Lin Jingjing could only give up the current opportunity and leave a good impression in front of Li Yuan. Only in this way could she pave the way for possible opportunities in the future. Good? It's my honor. Li Yuan nodded and sighed softly. This matter is indeed a bit tricky. Yes. Lin Jingjing frowned and said, then we'll go back and deal with it first. Everyone continue. Take care. It's okay. I've received a lot of this kind of defamation before. Just clarify it. Yes. Sister Jingjing, take care. A few colleagues who had a good time comforted them before sending Yi Shirleyang and Lin Jingjing away. When he walked out the door, Yi Shirleyang glanced at Luo Qingchen. His eyes were complicated and full of reluctance, and this gaze was coincidentally seen by Jin Yishuan. He snorted and said in his heart, Yi Shirleyang, you can only blame yourself for being too arrogant. How dare you snatch my fiancée? Are you satisfied with the result? In fact, Jin Yishuan knew very well that he hated Yi Shirleyang because of Luo Qingchen. He just didn't want to admit it, but it didn't mean that it wasn't the truth. Yes, he just didn't like Luo Qingchen. He felt that it was a marriage filled with the stench of money. He liked that kind of romantic fairy tale, like that kind of strong Cinderella. Therefore, when he saw Gu Fanfan for the first time, he was moved. However, this didn't mean that someone else could snatch Luo Qingchen away. In Jin Yishuan's eyes, he was not only a high and mighty celebrity, but also a rich man's son. He could abandon the things he hated, but that thing could not abandon him. Fight with him? Come if you have the ability. Chapter 25:16. Director Lee, are we going to select the male lead Lee Sahan from the list of candidates? The assistant asked this very serious question in a low voice. Li Yuan frowned and did not look very happy. In his eyes, the male lead was the male lead, and there were no other candidates. If he was reduced to a candidate, then he was not good enough. Since he was not good enough, it proved that he was not qualified for the role of Li Sahan. Jin Yishuan, who was standing not far away, naturally saw that Director Li Yuan was in a difficult position. He cleared his throat and stepped forward, boldly recommending himself. I don't know what kind of outstanding actor the director needs. I can give it a try. To be honest, the moment Jin Yishuan stood up, Luo Qingchen's head buzzed, and she felt like she was in a daze. Her stomach churned. Playing a couple with Jin Yishuan. Was it a joke? F***CK. Bao Bao looked at his greasy face and couldn't eat dinner. Okay? At the same time, Gu Fanfan was also surprised. Her face paled, and there was an indescribable feeling in her heart. In fact, she was already Jin Yishuan's legitimate girlfriend. She naturally knew that Jin Yishuan and Luo Qingchen were engaged before. But Jin Yishuan told her that the marriage was forced by his family and was not voluntary at all. In addition, this matter had come to an end, and they had broken up and broken off the engagement. But she was a woman after all, and it was inevitable that she would have a grudge against the words Luo Qingchen. At this time, Jin Yishuan stood up and recommended himself to the director, saying that he wanted to play the role of the male lead Li Sahan in Time. As everyone knew, most of the youth films were emotional entanglements, and there were definitely kissing scenes. You want to play the male lead? Li Yuan frowned and asked in a doubtful tone. If the director allows, I can try to audition. Jin Yishuan was very good at talking, and he even knew how to speak so that others would not reject him. At this time, Yisu narrowed her eyes and started to add fuel to the fire. Some people are really the nemesis of time. We just announced the so-called female lead candidate, and then such a big thing happened. As she spoke, she did not forget to give Oki a look. Oki immediately understood and said, "That's right. I think director Lee needs to think carefully about the choice of the female lead. After all, Time and Youth will be aired at the same time. Don't let so many celebrities' viewership ratings be lower than our fans' youth." Gu Fan, who was standing in the same spot, also said, "I won't comment too much. It's always the heavens who have eyes. Whatever people do, the heavens are watching. Hey, you guys, can you not be so sour with your words? Disgusting." Sister Mi couldn't stand the other party's sarcasm and retorted. Luo Qingshun didn't respond. She felt an inexplicable tension surrounding her. Li Yuan was silent for a moment when he heard that. He took out his phone and sent a text message to someone. The content was only a few words, but it immediately received a response from the other party. "Young master, the ex-fiancé of the girl you like is here to steal the role of Li Sahan." Li Yuan. Perhaps other people didn't know the relationship between Li Yuan and Gong Yubai, but in fact, they weren't just friends despite the difference in age. Before Li Yuan became a director, he was their family's butler. Therefore, he didn't even need to meet Luo Qingshun and could completely give the female lead role to her. After all, he had never seen his young master speak up for that girl. "I know about Yi Shiliang. Even if this didn't happen, I didn't plan to let him be the male lead. But Genie Xuan, is he worthy? Gong Yubai, then you have to find me a male lead candidate. This female lead is played by the person you like. It's hard for me to handle the male lead. Li Yuan, it's not hard. I've already thought about it. Gong Yubai who? Li Yuan." Chapter 25:17. In the next second, Li Yuan's phone almost fell to the ground, and then he turned to look at Luo Qingshun in horror. When Luo Qingshun received such a puzzled look, she blinked first, then blinked again. She could naturally feel that Director Li's gaze was a little strange, but she did not know what had happened, until he slowly opened his mouth and looked at Genie Xuan and said, "This. As a director who cherishes talent, I should give you the opportunity to audition, but what?" Genie Xuan felt that the director wanted to reject him, and he was inexplicably unhappy. Logically speaking, other than Yi Shiliang, he was the only popular young actor who had become popular this year. Although there were many famous actors, in his eyes, it seemed that he was the only one who was qualified for the role of Li Sahan. "But I already have a candidate on my side." Director Li Yuan's very certain words made everyone present very surprised. That's right. After all, if Yi Shiliang's role as the male lead was decided by Li Yuan in the beginning, now that he could not act, then the opportunity should be given to others more fairly. Genie Xuan's expression was already very bad. Even if Gu Fan beside him kept pulling on his sleeve, he could not stop his impulsive words. "Director Li, there is something I don't know if I should say." "Say it." At this time, Li Yuan did not find Genie Xuan pleasing to the eye. He was a petty person, and his status in the entertainment industry was relatively high, so it was impossible for others to refute him. Especially this kind of young actor who became popular in a short period of time. A tall building built without a solid foundation would collapse easily. But now, in front of so many people, he could not stop Genie Xuan from saying it. For the book written by Origami Guru, I have studied it many times and have a deep recognition of the role of Li Sahan. In addition, I feel that my popularity is the most suitable person to play this role among the young actors in the entertainment industry. Genie Xuan expressed all the resentment and anger in his heart in words. He thought that Director Li Yuan would be moved. Although these words were slightly exaggerated, he felt that at least so far there were not many people who could be qualified for this role except for him. Of course, he couldn't help but imagine the scene of the male and female lead kissing scene. During this period of time, Luo Qingshun was so cold to him. Excluding the fact that she was playing hard to get, she must have been disheartened by him. In this world, the more arrogant a person was, the more possessive they were. In his eyes, he could abandon Luo Qingshun, but Luo Qingshun could not abandon him first. If he really became the male lead of time, with so many kissing scenes, he didn't believe that she wouldn't fall in love with him again. I don't think so. Li Yuan's sword-like eyes raised, looking at him and saying, "There is someone more suitable to play this role than you." Probably because Li Yuan's expression was too certain, to the extent that everyone entered into a discussion of guesses one after another. Who is the director talking about? I'm suddenly very curious. Don't tell me it's Director Chun. She's a rising star in the music industry. No way. President Chun was a little older, and the role of Lee Sahan had to be played since junior high school. I don't think that's possible. What about Wan Wan? This year, because I filmed another youth film, the second male lead is really warm. Chapter 25:18. Hearing those comments, Luo Qingchan fell into deep thought. Looking at the entertainment industry, there might be many people suitable for the role of the female lead of time, but there weren't many suitable male leads. Her phone vibrated and Gong Yubai sent her a WeChat message. "What do you want to eat tonight to celebrate?" Gong Yubai, Luo Qingchen was stunned. The atmosphere was so tense, and he didn't ask about her situation. He wanted to eat to celebrate. What was there to celebrate? Yi Shiyang accidentally fell into a scandal. Was the male lead still to be decided? Not in the mood. Luo Qingchen. As soon as she pressed the send button, Jin Yishuan, standing not far away, spoke again. Then, "I wonder if Director Li can tell me who the person in your heart is?" Jin Yishuan gritted his teeth and said, "I just want to know where I'm lacking. I don't even have a chance to audition." Such righteous words. Each word was powerful and sonorous. For Jin Yishuan, in order to achieve his goal, he was going all out. Moreover, everyone's guesses entered his ears one by one. Those people were indeed more famous than him in the entertainment industry, but that didn't mean they were suitable to be the male lead of time. Li Yuan was about to say that person's name when the door of the VIP audition hall was suddenly opened. A cool light refracted in, and there was a young man standing in the light. He was wearing a white shirt that was loosely rolled up at the wrist. It was simple and beautiful, but there was also an indescribable sexiness to it. Against the refraction of the light, it just so happened to reflect his beautiful face. It was like he was just casually standing there, but his every movement had a noble temperament and an incomparable aura. Ding! Affection has increased by 20. Mission completion rate is now 60%. When the increasing affection appeared in Luo Qingchen's mind, she found that her heart was wildly beating uncontrollably, and even her palms were sweating. The entire VIP audition room fell into a short 3-second pause as everyone's eyes fell on a Gong Yubai. 3 seconds later, the scene was boiling. God, you. Oh, this old man's heart, the imperial god, actually came to the starry sky, wah. This is even more exciting than being selected for a supporting role in time and space. Me too. This trip was not in vain. Amidst the noisy discussions, one of them hit the nail on the head, causing the scene to fall into half a second of silence again. Could Yu Shun be the candidate directly mentioned for the male lead of time? Li Sahan? As soon as he said this, Jin Yishuan's eyes widened. He looked at Gong Yubai in disbelief. How could this be? How could the legendary nation's Prince Charming be in a youth film that could earn traffic and popularity? No matter how one thought about it, it was impossible. However, Gong Yubai had appeared in this place, and, moreover, he was walking towards Luo Qingchen step by step. The corners of director Li Yuan's mouth curled up. He stood up and looked at Gong Yubai. "You're finally here." "Yes, there's a bit of traffic on the road." After Gong Yubai responded, his eyes fell on Luo Qingchen. "Why aren't you in the mood to eat?" It was a very normal sentence, but when it came from Gong Yubai's mouth, it made everyone present take a cold breath. What was this situation? Could it be that Gong Yubai really knew Luo Qingchen? Chapter 25:19. Ahem. Li Yuan cleared his throat and brought the topic back. He looked at the completely stunned Jin Yishuan and said, "God Yu is the male lead of youth. I think he's more suitable to play Li Sahan. Do you think this person is suitable?" I. Jin Yixuan said I 3 times in a row but did not say anything else. He was completely suppressed by Gong Yubai's strong aura. The words were stuck in his throat, and he could not say anything. It was not because he was so shocked that he could not speak, but because he could not find any words to refute. The other party was Godyu. This was the most mysterious man in the entertainment industry. This was a man who had shot to fame with just one disaster film. This was the man who didn't participate in any variety shows and rarely appeared in front of the camera. However, this man had more than 10 million fans. With such a man's existence, what could he use to compete with him? He could not compete with him. He could not compete with him in anything. Whether it was popularity or traffic, he could not compete with him. But he did not understand why such a person with the best resources, who could film an international blockbuster, would choose to film a lengthy youth drama. Because what? Could it be Luo Qingchen? Is this the imperial god himself? Gu Fanfan blinked and stared at Gong Yubai, unable to take his eyes off him. This was the first time she had seen this proud son of heaven at such a close distance, and the tips of her ears unconsciously turned slightly red. Handsome, really handsome. He was like a young man who had walked out of a painting. He was so handsome that it was indescribable. She should work harder so that she could become the person who stood beside him. Yes, yes. Chiu Kuei was also very excited and said with small steps, God you. Under such a strong aura, Luo Qingchen felt a little embarrassed. It was as if wherever Gong Yubai stood, everyone's eyes would be there. Seeing that she did not respond for a long time, Gong Yubai smiled and said, What do you eat that makes you think for so long? In fact, when he said these words, he would look at Jin Yixuan from time to time. Who was Gong Yubai? Someone dared to steal the person he liked. What made him even angrier was that this person had once had her. He didn't do things like slapping people's faces often, but when he really did it, no one could stop him. No. Luo Qingchen shook her head and whispered, You really want to act in a youth film? Why do I feel like it's a waste of talent? This man was Gong Yubai. He was the national idol in the hearts of his fans. Not to mention a youth film with kissing scenes. Even a simple youth film would be explosive news. What? Could it be that Miss Luo Qingchen wants Jin Yixuan to play the male lead more? He glanced sideways at her, his deep eyebrows flashing with a touch of faint starlight, especially charming. He also lowered his voice. Although the others couldn't hear what they were whispering to each other, their small expressions and eye contact made everyone present think that they were very familiar with each other. Furthermore, they were very familiar with each other. Of course not. Luo Qingchen bit her lips and said, If he's a male lead, I won't act. She was just this arrogant and willful, although it was said that as a professional actor, she had to have good manners. But if she had to kiss Jin Yixuan's face, she would never do it, even if she was beaten to death. Chapter 25:20. At that time, Luo Qingchen thought that Gong Yubai was just joking. She didn't expect that in his heart. It was actually an oath. Jin Yixuan watched the interaction between Gong Yubai and Luo Qingchen. It was as if his heart was being pressed down by a large stone, making it hard for him to breathe. He thought that if it was just him and Yi Shiliang, he definitely wouldn't lose. But right now, the person he was facing was Gong Yubai. This man was bursting with popularity and had fans everywhere he went. How could he compare? Actually, he was unwilling. After Luo Qingchen dumped him, she actually got together with such a famous person. And him? After leaving Luo Qingchen, the one holding hands was a girl with no fame at all. The vanity in the depths of his heart faintly caused trouble, making him extremely anxious. Cough, cough, cough. Li Yuan saw that there were already people taking out their phones to take photos, and the discussion was getting more and more intense. He directly cleared his throat and said, The male lead time has already been confirmed as Yushan. I will let the assistant announce the supporting female lead later. That's it for today. Thank you, everyone. For the entire afternoon, in this Star Sky Corporation VIP audition room, the plot was at its climax. No one could have imagined the ending. For example, when Li Yuan announced that the male lead was Gong Yubai, Yi Su was so angry that her eyes rolled back and she fainted. Not to mention the fact that Luo Qingchen was a new star, adding in the explosive popularity of Godyu. Luo Qing-chun didn't even need to think about it. If time and youth were to air at the same time, the latter couldn't win. Plus, with the bet this morning, Yi Su completely lost. Because of this, she was so angry that she was admitted to the hospital. When they walked out of the Star Sky Corporation building, there was already a large crowd of reporters standing outside. Luo Qingchun shrugged and smiled helplessly, as expected of Yushan. What do you mean by that smile? Are you mocking me? Gong Yubai looked down at her and said, what do you think it would be like if I held your hand and walked out? When Luo Qingchun heard the first half of the sentence, she wanted to retort, but when she heard the second half, she instantly jumped back and looked at Gong Yubai seriously. My tone was one of admiration. There is absolutely no intention of ridicule. If Gong Yubai really held her hand and walked out at this time, her Weibo would definitely be attacked tonight. The drama hadn't even started filming yet, so she didn't want to be pushed into the limelight so quickly. Gong Yubai looked at her pursed lips and blinked slightly. The corners of his mouth unconsciously raised into a faint smile. He looked at her and said, do you have to be so cute? Ding, affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 70%. What's so cute about it? Luo Qingchun pursed her lips and looked away in embarrassment. Gong Yubai looked at her with admiration. There was a hint of affection in his eyes as he said softly, don't worry, this is not the right time to announce our relationship. He didn't care about being called the nation's Prince Charming. Instead, he cared more about being the best couple with a certain someone. The relationship between us? What was the relationship between them? Could someone explain it to her? Miss Luo Qingchun, are you planning on not taking responsibility? Gong Yubai's beautiful eyes slightly narrowed as he said, then I'll hold your hand and walk out. You. Luo Qingchun was speechless when she heard this. She felt like she had jumped into a large hole. I'll hold your hand. Chapter 25-21. And good girl. Gong Yubai gently patted her head, his eyes full of love. In the past, he thought that love was a burden to him, but now, without her, living seemed to have no meaning. But these words, people like him would only keep them in their hearts forever and never say it to her. In the end, Gong Yubai still didn't hold Luo Qingchun's hand and walked out of Starry Sky's door, but the topic between them was firmly tied together. Countless pieces of news came, catching Luo Qingchun off guard, but it filled Gong Yubai's face with satisfaction. It seemed that as long as he saw the names Gong Yubai and Luo Qingchun together, he was especially happy. AI, Qing'a, how does it feel to be in the headlines every day? Sister Mi put a stack of magazines in front of her, crossed her arms, and said, I'm only taking you as an artist now. I'm so busy I'm half dead. Luo Qingchun sat in front of the dressing mirror, looking at the stack of magazines out of the corner of her eye. The variety of titles made her feel embarrassed and amused. Big Bang. God You takes on a youth film. The female lead is actually her. You're more stunning than time. Lots of kissing scenes. Is the national male God borrowing? Miss the female lead of a youth film, but waiting for her is a heavyweight male god. Envy, envy, envy. God Yu's partner Qing Bao starts shooting Li Yuan's new drama, airing in June next year. In the following month, Luo Qingchun was in the small headlines almost every 3 days, and the big headlines every 5 days. Although Gong Yubai, and she didn't directly admit anything, her Weibo was completely attacked by God You fans. It was half good and half bad. At first, when they saw the bad comments, they were a little angry, but later, they were completely relieved. After all, Gong Yubai had a lot of fans. In their hearts, the national male god was actually shooting so many kissing scenes in a youth film, it was normal that they couldn't accept it. This was probably the reason why Gong Yubai didn't want to disclose their relationship. However, what was the relationship between them? Without a formal confession, the two people were in the gray area of love. Was this ambiguous? We'll officially start shooting tomorrow. I don't know why I suddenly feel nervous. Luo Qingchun looked at herself in the mirror, pursed her lips, and smiled faintly. He was indeed very good-looking. He definitely scored full marks. What are you nervous about? I'm the one who's nervous. I can't wear high heels tomorrow. Sister Me shook her head bitterly and said, "Otherwise, if you fall, you'll probably end up on the social news headlines." Social news? The trampling incident. Sister Me said with a bitter smile, "You don't know how many fans Yushin has. Now, let alone you, even I have to be fully armed when I go out. As long as I'm seen by the reporters, I'll be besieged by a group of people. It's very scary." Hearing this, Luo Qingshan nodded seriously and said, "It seems that we have to be careful when we go out tomorrow. I think it's definitely right to go to the set early." Sister Me nodded vigorously in agreement. "What time is it?" 3 o'clock. Sister Me thought for a moment and said, "The last time I went out at 5 o'clock, I was blocked by reporters. Better safe than sorry." 3 o'clock. Luo Qingshan thought about the pain of waking up early, and then thought about the dark night. Finally, the image of the reporter holding the microphone flashed through her mind. Chapter 25-22. It had to be said that Sister Me did have foresight, because early the next morning, her house was already blocked by reporters. Gong Yubai was a little worried and called her. She proudly said that she had already arrived at the set. At the same time, some actors from Starry Sky also joined the set, including Oki. She played the role of a vicious seventh female lead, and she only appeared 3 times in the entire script before it ended. Director Li Yuan thought that her eyes were very suitable for the role and had the potential to be a villain. The filming of Time didn't go as smoothly as expected. As the partner of Yushan, Luo Qingshan naturally had to accept many doubtful gazes. In addition, many of the supporting actresses present thought that a man like Yushan would definitely choose to fake the position for a kiss scene. They even happily offered some small props and tricks to fake the position. "Yushan, this fake finger is super suitable for fake position. Previously, when I was filming, a little fresh meat taught me. Yushan, when you fake the position, it's best to hold the other person's face with both hands. If you don't want to touch her, I have a super invisible glove for you." Yushan, this is on the 10th day of Time's filming. They finally filmed an important scene, which was the so-called kissing scene. The actresses and the entire crew were like crazy as they introduced Gong Yubai how to fake the position, afraid that he would kiss her. This kind of feeling really made him uncomfortable. Luo Qingshan wore sunglasses and sat on a chair at the side, drinking watermelon juice. She looked at the supporting actresses not far away with a displeased expression. "Don't mind it." Director Li seemed to have seen through it. He sat beside her and said earnestly, "You will have what you want." Luo Qingshan was stunned for a moment. She turned her eyes and happened to see Li Yuan's deep eyes. He continued to say, "At that time, the eldest young master also fell into doubt, but he said that there was a dream that constantly surrounded him, making him let go of many of the obsessions in his heart. He planned to act out the dream of these 20 years. Eldest young master?" Luo Qingshan frowned and said, "Why did you call him that?" Li Yuan was stunned for a moment and hurriedly said, "It was a slip of the tongue. I just want to tell you that Yushan's current position is due to his hard work. Although he doesn't care about it, he cares about that movie. Apocalypse 2150. Yes." Li Yuan sighed softly and said, "I originally thought that he wouldn't shoot any other movies, let alone a TV series. Even when he asked for the female lead, I was only surprised. I still didn't think that he would want to play the male lead." Luo Qingshan narrowed her eyes as she looked at Gong Yubai. Perhaps she really didn't know him that well, whether it was his identity or his obsession. "Director, the scene is ready. Okay." Li Yuan nodded and said, "Start shooting in 5 minutes." Everyone thought that the first kissing scene would take a long time to shoot. After all, Gong Yubai had collected all the props needed for the scene. If they had to fake the kissing scene, they would definitely have to film it from all angles in order to not expose it. This would waste a lot of time. Director Li Yuan also didn't think that Gong Yubai would film a kissing scene. After all, according to his status, it was obviously impossible. Sentence 57, the first time, action. Chapter 25-23. "So, you like me because my name is the same as hers." The girl slowly looked up, and there was a mist in her eyes. The young man didn't say anything and just stood there silently. The petals of the pear tree fell on the girl's short curly hair, looking very beautiful. Not saying anything means you're admitting it. The girl gave a self-deprecating laugh and suddenly looked up. Let's stop here. The next second, she turned to leave, but the young man pulled her into his embrace with his right hand. He cupped her cheek without saying a word, closed his eyes slightly, and sealed it with a kiss. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 80%. There were no props, no position manipulation, nothing. Everyone was shocked. Even Luo Qingchun was shocked. Gong Yubai's kiss wasn't just a real kiss. It was a deep kiss, all right? A faint mint scent lingered at the tip of her nose, and Gong Yubai's strong arms tightly wrapped around her waist, firmly binding her. See, there was a breath of cold air, and the director hurriedly made a gesture, telling everyone not to make a sound. After an unknown amount of time, the young man slowly let go of the girl. His eyebrows moved slightly as he looked at her blushing face and said with a smile, I wasn't sure of my feelings at first, but with a simple turn of your body, it made me believe in love. The scriptwriter sitting beside director Li Yuan whispered in the director's ear, This. Why is Li Sahan's words different from the script? Don't speak. Just like this. Li Yuan was a very immersed person. In the scene in front of him, Gong Yubai was Li Sahan and Luo Qingchun was Mu Chuxia. Everything was so fitting, so perfect. Cut! The entire scene went on for nearly 5 minutes before director Li shouted cut. Luo Qingchun was stunned and almost couldn't recover. She felt her nose sour and tears almost fell. This kind of immersive feeling really made one's heart tremble. Gong Yubai seemed to sense that she was in a bad mood. He patted her head and chuckled. Wake up, silly girl. However, no one knew that although he looked calm on the surface, his heart was in turmoil. Luo Qingchun might not have understood that he was the one who was truly immersed in the role, so much so that he even changed his lines during the dialogue. Sorry. Luo Qingchun lowered her head in embarrassment. She touched her red ears and looked at Gong Yubai. I'm a little nervous. It was a nervousness that came from the depths of her heart. Bit by bit, it devoured her rationality and made her deeply immersed in the role. So, was the confession and favorability points that appeared at the same time his heartfelt words? It wasn't until the director shouted cut that the onlookers, who were holding their breaths, finally let out a sigh of relief. Their whispers drifted into her ears, but they quickly shut their mouths. The reason was naturally because of Gong Yubai's sharp eyes, which made people feel a chill from the corner of their eyes. However, Gong Yubai had never looked at her with such an icy gaze. Whether it was the first time they met or the feelings they had for each other, the way he looked at her changed from indifference to gentleness, and from gentleness to doting. This was Gong Yubai, the cold and ascetic national prince, charming in everyone's eyes. In fact, he still treated the person he liked with all his gentleness. Just like what he said, Chapter 25-24. Time and Youth started filming at the same time, and they were both officially recognized as a couple. However, Time was more popular than Youth. Just the number of searches on Weibo for Time had already exceeded 1 billion, while Youth did not even reach 100 million. Gong Yubai's popularity naturally accounted for a large part of this, but there were many other factors as well. For example, director Li Yuan's filming techniques and Luo Qingchun's acting skills. The trailers for the 2 TV series were released at the same time. The ratings on Douban were 9, 8, and 6, 9 respectively. Although it was undeniable that Sleepless Chi-Chi's book was indeed not bad, and many of the hot scenes in the book could be described very exquisitely, if it was really acted out, many of the shooting methods would make people feel greasy if there was no rhetoric. On the contrary, it was not a spring breeze, but a sense of urban style. The comments on the internet were also one-sided after the trailer was released. Almost everyone was on Luo Qingchun's side. They thought that there must be something fishy about her being snatched away from the lead role of Youth. Some industry insiders even revealed the grudges between Jeannie Xuan, Gu Fanfan, and Luo Qingchun. This kind of unsightly method was known in the industry as ascending to the top. Gu Fanfan naturally couldn't stand others talking about her like that. She, who had always been strong, directly posted on Weibo. The content was as follows. Gu Fan Fan V. Please don't peek into other people's hearts. Not everyone is equally dirty. Words decide everything. I don't want to say anything more. She thought that after posting this on Weibo, many people would comfort her. Unexpectedly, what he received was an even more torrential wave of abuse. On what basis? She worked so hard and never framed others, never used others, and never hurt others. She should just do her own thing. Why should everyone bully her? The WeChat group for the crew of Youth rang, and it was filled with the director scolding. Shaoan, I told you not to post on Weibo or Weibo. Why didn't you listen? Did she really think that she was the female lead? He regretted choosing the female lead with his own hands. If Luo Qingshun was the one who played the role of Xia Qiqi, Yusha might have volunteered to play the male lead. Then he, Shaoan, would be able to climb to the top because of a TV series. Unfortunately, at that time, what was wrong with her brain? She actually chose a person with no traffic, no popularity, and nothing to be the female lead. Jin Yishuan, director, don't be angry. It's Fan Fan's first time, and she doesn't understand. Shaoan, Yishuan, I let her play the female lead because of you. You should be able to see what has happened in the past 2 months. People who had no foundation in acting were just wasting film. Gu Fan Fan, director, I admit that I have a lot of shortcomings, but that doesn't mean that I haven't worked hard. Shaoan, yes. You tried your best, but I told you not to post on Weibo. Why didn't you listen? Gu Fan Fan, but what they said isn't the truth. It's slander. Shaoan, how are they not telling the truth? Didn't you steal Xia Qiqi's role from Luo Qingshun? At this moment, Gu Fanfan's hands that were holding the phone suddenly trembled. Could it be that even the director thought that Xia Qiqi's role was stolen by her? Shaoan seemed to realize that he had gone too far, so he added another sentence. Chapter 25. Gu Fanfan blushed. She was both timid and expectant. She liked Jin Yishuan. She liked the feeling of being surprised from time to time. She even liked to stay by his side all the time. At first, maybe she didn't like Jin Yishuan, but when she had that inexplicable sense of crisis and felt that he might like Luo Qingshun, she became more eager to be with him. People were like this. Those who couldn't get were always in turmoil. Those who were favored were always fearless. Not only Gu Fanfan, but Jin Yishuan was also like this. A large part of his attention to Luo Qingshun came from her indifference. It was because of her indifference that he wanted to show himself in front of her. Bed scene. Jin Yishuan frowned slightly. There was a trace of doubt in his tone. Although he didn't show it on the surface, his expression couldn't lie. Shaoan sighed softly and said, if you want to gain exposure now, this is the only way to try. Director, I have no problem. Gu Fanfan pursed her lips and said, no matter how difficult it is, I will stand with everyone and do my best. She clenched her fists and made a cheering expression. She was especially motivated, especially strong, especially... Mary Sue. Shaoan seemed to see that Jin Yishuan was a little embarrassed. He patted him on the shoulder and said, don't worry about acting. Leave the rest to me. Although he couldn't make the decision in Starry Sky, he knew people on a TV broadcast platform. It was said that Time was exclusively broadcast on Lychee platform. He knew the son of one of the shareholders of this platform. As long as he gave some money to him for help, he could definitely delay the release of Time so that it wouldn't clash with Youth. As long as they didn't clash, there would be no comparison. As long as they didn't compare Youth, the film could still survive. Okay, I know. Jin Yishuan nodded reluctantly, but his mind drifted far away. During this period, whether it was magazines, Weibo, or major headlines, they were all talking about Gong Yubai and Luo Qingshun. He didn't think that Luo Qingshun was so charming before. He had just driven away Yi Shiliang, and now Gong Yubai appeared. Probably because so many people liked her, it made him suddenly feel that she was so dazzling. Damn it, why did he suddenly have a feeling of wanting to snatch her back? Yishuan. Perhaps it was because he was too engrossed in his thoughts that he did not hear Gu Fanfan calling his name many times. What's wrong? Standing at the door of the garage, Gu Fanfan lowered his head slightly and crossed his arms in front of his chest. He said with an aggrieved face, "Do you not like me anymore? If you don't like me, you can tell me. I will leave." She has her pride, and in the Mary Sue world, pride is a very important thing. However, deep in her heart, she longed for others to persuade her to stay. She hoped that, by retreating, she would be able to persuade the other party to stay. This was how a person with such a personality was. This was how the so-called kindness was. Sure enough, when Genie Xuan saw her pitiful look, he couldn't bear to touch her head and said, "Silly girl, you think too much. I'm just thinking about how to perform better tomorrow." Looking at Gu Fanfan, Genie Xuan could not help but feel a little guilty. Chapter 25-26. A well-timed confession could often move a man's heart. Perhaps Gu Fanfan did not do it on purpose, but it did evoke Genie Xuan's pity. For a moment, he seemed to have forgotten about Luo Qingshun and reached out to hug Gu Fanfan. Until the bed scene the next day, Director Xiao and left 2 female assistants behind and tried to get rid of the irrelevant people as much as possible. Gu Fanfan was wrapped in a bath towel. She was a little nervous, but there was an unconcealable smile at the corner of her mouth. She had been with Genie Xuan for so long. Other than kissing and hugging, he did not seem to have any other intentions towards her. Although it was not good for a girl to have such thoughts, she was indeed looking forward to it deep down in her heart. The bed scene this time gave her the opportunity to do something with Genie Xuan in a legitimate manner. "Fanfan, don't be nervous. Just follow the script when the time comes," Director Xiaoan explained, because this is a youth film. Originally, the bed scene in Sleepless Chi-Chi's novel was also mentioned briefly. "We will not film it too explicit." "Ah, that's good." Gu Fanfan and Genie Xuan spoke at the same time. However, one of them sounded slightly disappointed, while the other sounded slightly relieved. In Genie Xuan's eyes, he was definitely a gentleman. Now, he did not feel the novelty of Gu Fanfan as before. In addition, he had been thinking about Luo Qingshun for the past few days. This feeling made him want to keep a distance from Gu Fanfan, but he could not completely say it out loud. If he said it out loud, wouldn't he be admitting that he was a scumbag? "Okay, both of you don't worry." Xiao nodded and glanced at his watch. "We will start in 5 minutes. Chapter 108 of Youth, First Action. Outside the window, the rain poured down. In a square room, 2 people were lying on a big bed. Xia Chi-Chi nervously covered the blanket. The young man beside her had a perfect body, and there was a fire in his eyes. "Can we be together forever like this?" Xia Chi-Chi pulled the blanket up slightly and looked at him. "I'm a little scared." As soon as his voice fell, the young man turned around and pushed her down. He kissed her deeply and said, "Don't worry, I will be responsible for you." The young man unbuttoned her buttons one by one. Just as the director was about to shout cut, Xia Chi-Chi grabbed his hand. Xia Chi-Chi wrapped one arm around the young man's neck. There seemed to be a ball of fire in her eyes as she kissed the young man deeply. Xiaoan, who was about to shout cut, stopped. He thought that Gu Fanfan's first would be nervous. He did not expect her to be so immersed in it. She suddenly felt that she didn't seem to have the potential to film a youth film. Instead, she had the potential to film an adult film. Genie Xuan. Goose, he did not want to NG. He didn't know why, but he really didn't like girls who took the initiative. Their private parts were almost stuck together. Chapter 25-27. She had worked so hard, so why did God have to go against her? The female lead that was obtained through hard work had already been scolded everywhere before the filming had even started. The man that was obtained through hard work had silently changed his heart. She held back her tears, got dressed, and walked out of the room. The director was watching the replay and couldn't help but feel a burning excitement. On the rooftop, Genie Xuan smoked a cigarette, and his gaze was deep. Gu Fanfan walked up and hugged him from behind. "Do you really not love me anymore?" Genie Xuan frowned and broke free from her embrace. He looked at her and said, "Fanfan, don't be like this. What's wrong with me?" Gu Fanfan shouted heartbreakingly and looked at Genie Xuan. "You're the one who said that you like me, and you're the one who wants to abandon me after getting me. I didn't want to abandon you. I just feel a little irritated. Jeannie Schwan explained, maybe it's because the pressure is too great. This film only has me as the only one supporting it. So, it obviously can't compare to AI. Let's not talk about it. Yes, my popularity is not as good as your ex-fiancé. Then why did you choose me at that time? Gu Fanfan bit her lip and tears fell drop by drop. She cried, if you don't provoke me, I won't provoke you. Jeannie Schwan was stunned. Looking at her tearful appearance, he couldn't help but feel distressed. He sighed softly and walked forward to hug her. Don't cry. I really don't dislike you. I just feel a little annoyed. Yixuan, Gu Fanfan slowly looked up at him and said, let's work hard together, okay? I think as long as we work hard, we could defeat Luo, Qingshun, and the others. He hesitated for a moment and slowly spat out a word. Okay, defeat Luo, Qingshun. There was still some hope. But to defeat Yushun, it was easier said than done. Who in the entire entertainment industry could shake Gong Yubai's position? He was not convinced, but he had to admit that Gong Yubai had this popularity and status. At the same time, on the set of Time, Luo Qingshun was eating fries while studying the script. Gong Yubai and director Li Yuan were discussing the next scene to shoot. I think it's better not to hug at this place, director Li Yuan suggested after deep thought. Gong Yubai, who was sitting to the side, nodded. I think so too. Eldest young master was indeed the eldest young master. Why don't we change it to holding hands? Before he could finish his sentence, Gong Yubai blurted out, change it to a kiss. Li Yuan, Luo Qingshun, the two of them looked at Gong Yubai at the same time and laughed awkwardly. On the contrary, Gong Yubai calmly explained, we're shooting a youth film, not a romance film. We have to leave something for the fans to remember. Ha ha ha. Luo Qingshun smiled awkwardly. I didn't think God you would be so considerate of his fans. Recently, their kissing scenes were not going well. Their Godyu, whose acting skills were off the charts, had a habit of doing NGs. The supporting actresses on the side were all envious, jealous, and hateful, but they couldn't say anything because they didn't have the right to say anything. In the past 2 days, the phrase NGs and kissing scenes have been on the hot search list on Weibo. Many astute fans left comments one after another. God, you deliberately NGs kissing scenes. Anyone with a discerning eye can see why. It had to be said that since the highlights of Time came out from time to time, fewer and fewer people were dissatisfied with her. Chapter 25-28. When Gong Yubai heard this, he nodded seriously and said, of course I'm thinking for the fans. After all, I know what they want to see the most. Are you sure they want to see abstinence, Yushun, and a female star kiss? Luo Qingshun asked back. You haven't seen what the Weibo post before the filming started, right? Although Time was very popular, when everyone knew that the male lead Lee Se-han had many kissing scenes, they all said that they must give up the drama. How could the perfect male god in their hearts be tainted by the mortals of the secular world? But when their behind-the-scenes footage was gradually released, the fans of the Yushun couple suddenly appeared with big flags. And the number was increasing exponentially, so much so that Luo Qingshun could hardly see comments like, no female star is worthy of Yushun on Weibo now. Gong Yubai's gradual improvement made her admire him. That was before. Gong Yubai chuckled and said, now there are many people who support us being a couple. When I go on Weibo, I will give them a like whenever I see them. What? Luo Qingshun froze for a moment, the corners of her mouth twitching. You even gave them a like? Of course. Gong Yubai looked at her proudly and said, to let the CP flag be deeply rooted in people's hearts, it must start with me. When director Li Yuan heard this, he couldn't help but give a thumbs up and said, you are indeed the young master, so thoughtful. It's all for this girl. Gong Yubai rubbed her head and said, I don't want anyone to say that she is not good. In fact, when she heard Gong Yubai's words, Luo Qingshun felt inexplicably warm. Some people wouldn't say I like you or I like you all the time, but they would do a lot of things silently in the fleeting years of their lives, in order to not let the people they care about suffer any harm. The script of Time was filmed very smoothly. Gong Yubai and Luo Qingshun's acting skills were very good. Except for the kiss scene where Yushun could NG, There were basically no problems with the male and female lead scenes. On the day of the end of filming, director Lee Yuan treated everyone to a meal. Little did they know that he received a phone call at the dinner table, and his expression changed. Gong Yubai seemed to see it, and stayed alone with Lee Yuan after the meal. Of course, Luo Qingshun also sneaked into the room. Gong Yubai, who was about to close the door, was surprised when he saw Luo Qingshun's small head. Sister Me, why haven't you gone back? Didn't you just get in the car with Sister Me? Li Yuan, Luo Li Yuan's expression, Yubai Li Yuan, Li, I can't. She could naturally see that Li Yuan's entire person had changed after receiving the call at the dining table. If it wasn't a particularly important family matter, then it could only be a business matter. For now, director Li Yuan's focus was on time. Then the only possibility was that something had gone wrong with the show. That's not something you should worry about. Gong Yubai glanced behind her and said, Didn't Sister Me come with you? Luo Qingshun shook her head decisively and said, Lord you, do you want me to go home alone? Although most people thought that the always cold and arrogant Lord you would not fall for this coquettish trick, they were wrong. As long as Luo Qingshun acted coquettishly, he almost had no choice but to surrender. Chapter 25-29. Luo Qingshun looked around and saw Li Yuan sitting on the sofa with a serious face. But when he saw her, he still teased her with a smile. Young master, now you bring your family to listen in on official business, ah? It's not like your style. Gong Yubai came out of the kitchen with a cup of hot water in his hand and chuckled. Family members make people worry. Luo Qingshun heard this. Her cheeks slightly blushed and retorted, How can you two say bad things in front of people? Rude. This isn't a bad thing. I haven't seen young master have any family members in most of my life. It's natural to say a few more words when it's so rare. Ahem. Gong Yubai cleared his throat and changed the topic. Just now I was worried sick and had no love for life. Now, I see that you're full of vitality. It seems that there's no need to solve the problem. In fact, he quite liked to listen to others tease him and Luo Qingshun, but he was afraid that she would feel embarrassed. Li Yuan heard this and said with a helpless smile, I surrender, crazy wife-doting demon. Although I'm not very satisfied with the last 6 words, but because of the first 4 words, I forgive you. Gong Yubai leaned on the sofa, took a sip of coffee and said, Say it. What's going on? Li Yuan's expression became dignified. He put a stack of documents on the table and said, Previously, our TV series was going to be released exclusively on Lychee TV. The time has already been discussed, but yesterday, the person in charge told me that it needs to be postponed. Gong Yubai's eyebrows slightly wrinkled, and his right hand tapped on the table. He almost blurted out without thinking, We're clashing with the neighboring youth. Li Yuan was slightly stunned, and his face showed a touch of surprise. He knew that Gong Yubai's thoughts were meticulous, but he didn't expect that he would be able to associate youth with the TV series that was scheduled to be broadcast during the summer vacation at the same time. Yes, Li Yuan frowned and said, At that time, I didn't know that you would be acting. You also know my character. I absolutely don't care about popularity. Therefore, when I signed a contract with Lychee TV, the penalty for breach of contract was very small. I understand. A sharp glint flashed across Gong Yubai's deep eyes. He looked at Li Yuan and said, What they mean is that if you are unwilling, you can choose to compensate for the breach of contract, but the script of time should still belong to them. Yes. Li Yuan sighed deeply and said, At that time, they signed 2 contracts. Even if they breached the contract first, they still have the rights to the script. Li Yuan was very clear about Gong Yubai's identity, but because his identity was too special, many things might not be resolved perfectly. Who would have thought that in the next second, Gong Yubai's ink-like eyes flashed with a cold light. His thin lips curled up coldly as he said, Originally, I didn't care about this matter, but he looked at Luo Qingshun, who was sitting obediently at the side, and said, It's not my style to let go of people who bully my little girl. Before he met her, he had always been indifferent. Even if someone stepped on his bottom line, he might not deliberately make a fuss about it. After all, in his eyes, It was truly beneath his dignity to argue with those ordinary people. Chapter 25-30. At the same time, in the mansion of the Jin family, Jin Yishuan, director Xiao and Chun Fong, the son of the shareholder of Lychee TV, as well as Gu Fanfan and Yi Su, brother Chen Fong, sorry for troubling you. Xiao handed him a big bag of gifts and said, I'll treat you to a meal when I have time. Chen Fong weighed the gifts in his hand and smiled. Director Xiao, you're too polite. Your drama deserves its fame. It should be put into prime time during the summer vacation. That's right, Xiao said proudly. I have confidence in my drama. Well, Chen Fong glanced at his watch and said, it's getting late. I'll go first. Brother Chen Fong, take care. After Chen Fong left, director Xiao's face fell. The atmosphere in the room was particularly depressing. Director, is this considered bribery? Gu Fanfan, who had always been upright, stood up and bit her lips. Is this not very good? She wanted to beat Luo Qingchen. She wanted to beat her fair and square. But she also knew that she couldn't win. So when the director offered Chen Fong a bribe, she actually agreed in her heart. However, she knew that this was an opportunity, a great opportunity, to get Jin Yishuan back. She wanted to let Jin Yishuan know that she was an upright person. Only in this way could she get his attention. Not very good. Xiao's face looked very bad. Now that all the dramas had been finished, he didn't need to tolerate Gu Fanfan anymore. If he hadn't misjudged her, he wouldn't have been reduced to this point. Gu Fanfan still wanted to say something, but she was directly interrupted by Xiao's words. What do you have to say? It's not very good. Let me tell you, Gu Fanfan, even if you strip naked in youth today, you can't win 1/10 the time. Do you know why? Hearing this, Gu Fanfan's tears fell instantly. She was most afraid of being yelled at. As long as someone yelled at her, she would feel very wronged, no matter what the reason was. Jin Yishuan frowned. Logically speaking, he should immediately speak up to protect Gu Fanfan, but in his heart, he had a feeling that he was siding with Xiao, and this feeling made him go silent for 2 seconds. Just as he was about to speak, Yi Su spoke first. Director, you can't blame Fanfan entirely for this. She did everything she could. You're being too much of a bully. As Gu Fanfan's friend, Yi Su stood firmly by her side, no matter what happened. That's right. Mary Sue always had 1 or 2 friends who were willing to risk their lives for her. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to reach the end with just courage and luck. Oomph. Xiao snorted and didn't say anything else. After all, Yi Su was considered a veteran in the industry. No matter what, he had to give her some face. But for some reason, the more he looked at Gu Fanfan, the more he found him to be an eyesore. If you really think that I'm not good enough, then replace me. Gu Fanfan pursed his lips, looked at Jin Yishuan in despair, and ran out of the Jin family mansion. Jesus was a little anxious. He wanted to go forward and grab her hand, but he realized that he grabbed nothing. Seeing that Jin Yishuan was still standing in the same spot, he said angrily, Jin Yishuan, your girlfriend ran away. It's so late, and she's outside alone. What do you think she'll do if her coat touches the paparazzi or bad guys?